Hey, if you're new to my channel, then consider liking and subscribing. It would really mean a lot to me, and honestly, it'd make my day. If you already did, thank you so much. Oh, and by the way, if you like listening to fan fiction, check out my other channel. The link's in the description.
Once again by Double M7. Lady Toki grants Luffy one last chance to correct his mistakes. Luffy was sent 12 years into the past in order to relive his life. Though there was a catch, he retains his 19-year-old mind and body. How will he change the world? For the better. Adios.
The journey to Alabasta was a lively one. Arlong was their navigator. Being a fishman, the sea was his playground. So what's our path if we were to go to Alabasta from Sabaody Archipelago? Luffy had a map of the world in front of him, though it was still incomplete. The woman who should complete this map is still 12 years too young to join him on his journey. Alright boss, so we can go through the calm belt. Those who have no fruit abilities can send the Sea Kings away. Arlong looked at Mihawk and Lucci, who both nodded their heads in agreement. He was busy with the rudder, so he could not help with the battle. Then we can go through East Blue, back up to Reverse Mountain, and we'll be in Alabasta in no time. Good plan, but can we stop by some places? Luffy asked. Well yeah, of course Captain, you are the captain after all. Where to? Arlong asked, to which Luffy took the pencil from Arlong and marked 4 places. Ah okay Captain. The journey through the calm belt was fun, as Mihawk and Lucci had some training against gigantic Sea Kings. The rest of the crew did their duties as Luffy watched over them, and as planned, the Straw Hats bypassed the calm belt once more and entered the East Blue. Now for Luffy's first destination. It was a small town right by Dawn Island. It was a little island known as Shimotsuki Village. The ship docked on the only port of the small island, and Luffy took Mihawk with him, for he had a plan. The rest of the crew remained on the ship, loading up on supplies for their long journey ahead. Captain, who is this person you want me to meet? Mihawk was walking beside Luffy, as they attracted attention from the villagers. Nobody has ever seen a person who carried a massive sword before, and Luffy, well, he looked like a normal person to them. Little did they know. He's right there. Luffy and Mihawk stood in an open field, with a lone tree and a young green-haired swordsman slicing at the air with 3 wooden swords. One in each hand and another in his mouth. Hey kid, your form is a bit off, commented Luffy. He knew that this kid was not his first mate from his timeline, but maybe Mihawk can throw in some pointers to get him on a much more accelerated path. Shut it old man, I know what I'm doing. The young green-haired swordsman responded, though his back was still turned at the 2 people that were trying to talk to him. Your swing is too wide, try it in one fell motion like this. Mihawk picked a stick from the ground and sliced at the air. The swing caused a cut in the air, causing the green-haired swordsman to finally turn and face them. Teach me this technique, he exclaimed. It is not a technique, it is the basics, Mihawk replied. What's your name? Asked Luffy, knowing the answer. My name is Roronoa Zoro, and my goal is to beat a certain someone, he exclaimed. Luffy knew who it was, but he couldn't let off that he knew more. I am Dracule Mihawk, and this is my captain, Monkey D. Luffy. Mihawk, stay with the kid for a couple of hours. Then rejoin us back on the ship. Show him something good, said Luffy as he left the 2 to train. Mihawk was confused on why he should train this random swordsman, but it was captain's orders. Alright kid, what do you know about the blade? And so it began. Aboard the ship of the Straw Hat crew, everyone was bored out of their mind. Why are we on this island? Complained Arlong, though Brûlé and Hancock were happily chatting amongst one another. Katakuri was showing Lucci a breathing technique while Brook was practicing his swordsmanship. Make use of your time, Arlong. Come join us, responded Katakuri while Lucci was doing the breathing technique before him. Fine, so what are you guys doing? It better be cool. To this Katakuri smirked, revealing his fang-like teeth. None of the crew was giving him a hard time about it. None of them expected him to be perfect. It was an amazing feeling to just be himself. Go ahead Lucci, activate your armament Haki. To this Lucci complied, and sure enough his hands were covered in resin-like substance. What? The strange thing was, Lucci still had his Haki active, even though previously he can only hold it for 5 seconds. Whoa, teach me, Arlong had been wasting time lollygagging that he could have used to train in learning Haki. Sure thing, so begin with your breathing. The trio went to work, learning about the essential of Haki through Katakuri. It took only another few hours for Luffy to arrive, opting to rest in his quarters with Hancock. Then, as the sun finally set on the horizon, Mihawk returned on board, with a noticeable wound on his left arm. "Hey, what happened?" asked Brook, who was the first to greet Mihawk. With Zoro. "Hey Zoro. We missed you in class today." A young blue-haired girl approached Zoro in the same tree that he had been training at since earlier. She held a sword in her hand, keeping careful care of it. Kuina. My hands are still trembling with excitement. A great swordsman just showed me a couple of things. Like what? Listening to the blade and becoming one with it. He even let me use his blade and I was able to cut him. Shuri Zoro. Anyway, Master is looking for us. Let's go. Kuina held Zoro's hands and pulled him, leading the way. A smile formed in the lips of the young green-haired swordsman. The voice of my blade, huh? What does it mean? Back on the ship. Nothing at all. The Hawk retreated to his sleeping quarters to take care of his small wound. In his mind, the event from earlier was as clear as day. He let the kid carry his blade due to the captain seeing something in him. He dueled the kid with using his necklace blade. And the kid cut him by simply using the things he taught him. All within a few hours. Whoever that kid was, he's going to be a major power in the world. Before reaching his room, he passed by the captain's quarter, where as he passed the front of the room, Luffy opened it and greeted him with a smile. Captain, he was going to explain what happened and why he had a wound, but Luffy shook his head, knowing full well the potential that the young green-haired swordsman had. Get some rest, Mihawk, we're going to move on to the next island. With this, Luffy ran to the deck and instructed Arlong on the next destination. Just a little place known as Gecko Island Syrup Village. As the sun was rising, once again the crew anchored in the distance. Luffy instructed the crew to get some supplies once more, as much as they could trade for with the villagers. The problem with the smaller towns that they were stopping at was that they had limited supplies. Regardless, there was a reason that Luffy went to this island, and he brought Katakuri with him. Mihawk trained a powerful swordsman yesterday. This stop won't happen to be another training for some unknown person, would it? You'll see Katakuri. Luffy said with a smile as in the distance, he could see him. The biggest liar in the entire world but one of his bestest friends. He nudged Katakuri as the young man revealed himself. Halt! Yelled a kid with goggles over his banana and a long pointy nose. He had his finger pointed at Luffy and Katakuri. Pirates beware. I am Captain Usopp and I command you to return to where you came from, or else my 100,000 army will destroy you. Captain, you have got to be kidding me. Go ahead and challenge him. Luffy ordered, to which Katakuri easily restrained Usopp, slamming his face on the ground. Ouch, that was a bit excessive, wasn't it, Katakuri? Sorry, Captain. Who are you people? Help! My dad is a world-famous pirate. I swear he'll get you, exclaimed Usopp as he trashed violently on the ground. You're obviously hungry to get stronger, Usopp. Would you like to learn something that will make you a great warrior one day? Luffy knew what Usopp would want to hear and worked to calm the young man. Yes, show me please, mister. Usopp was released from Katakuri's grip, and he shot up, jumping up and down and eager to learn. Katakuri, teach him what you can about Ober. Luffy left. He had some words of wisdom for the young man. Usopp, before I go, I want to tell you that whatever you learn from Katakuri today, use it, harness it and grow from it, because in 7 years' time, a strange butler will show up and I would like you to beat the crap out of him and tell him this. Luffy whispered something in Usopp's ear before giving him a pat on the head, and similar to what he did with Mihawk and Zoro, left the two to train. Alright kid, the captain obviously sees something in you, but I don't know what you can learn in a few hours. But here goes. And thus Katakuri began showing Usopp the basics of observation Haki. Back on the ship, Lucci had picked Katakuri's brain the previous day for some pointers in armament Haki, and now since Katakuri was brought along by the captain, he went to Hancock for some pointers in lower extremities combat, which she is proficient in. Your legs are 4 times stronger than your arms, so if you hit something. Hancock had given a rising sidekick on a wooden dummy, causing a loud crack. Right. Lucci was absorbing everything like a sponge. Being one of the youngest of the crew, He was eager to learn, and more importantly, he was eager to kill whoever the woman was that killed his family. So he followed Hancock's instruction and even took note of her form and the area in which she started her momentum. Every movement had a purpose, he had to hone this. We'll have to hold off on the lesson for the time being. I will be retiring along with the captain for the day. Lucci had a massive sweat drop form over his head. He understood well enough what they were doing in there. Surely enough, Luffy returned once more, but this time he gave out an order. Once Katakuri returns, Arlong, please set course to the coordinates I gave you. Aye, Captain, but this is going to the middle of nowhere. No, it's definitely going to be a place we need to be. Luffy was immediately pulled in the room as Hancock could not wait any longer. Well, where is it on the map? Brule asked as she looked at the coordinates marked by Arlong. Lucci and Brook joined them and it was just water. Meanwhile in the room, Luffy was on a call with Aladdin, once again thanking him for his help. Aladdin, thank you for the coordinates, are you sure this is where they will be? Aye, Luffy, I have seen them with my own eyes. Are you sure you don't want me to help? They seem to be starving. No, I will go to them immediately, something needs to happen. In his mind he finished the sentence with, in order for him to grow. Alright then Luffy, anyway I got to go. Whitebeard has assembled a massive army of all his allies. He is planning something big, call any time. And Aladdin dropped the call, leaving Luffy in his thoughts. Babe. Hancock called out, to which Luffy turned to look at her. Holy shit, Luffy was speechless, as all she wore were transparent bikini top and bottom. Do you like what you see? She said seductively. All he could do was nod his head. Come here and don't make me wait anymore. And like a hungry animal, Luffy immediately went to work to please his woman. Later that day, as once again the sun disappeared from the sky, Katakuri returned. So how did it go for you? Mihawk was the one to greet him on board. He was able to see Luffy from hundreds of yards away, and his nose started bleeding furiously. I didn't want to look. Katakuri had a heavy aura about him, and Mihawk picked up on what he meant. Well, regardless of the traumatic experience, at least he learned. That he did. Katakuri replied with a smile. Before Luffy returned to the ship, there was someone he needed to see. So he made his way to Syrup Village, where there was the bed-ridden mother of the young man. Hello, Banchina. Luffy had knocked on the door and let himself in. The sickly woman could not bring herself to get up. Your straw hat reminds me of the nice red-haired man whom Usopp joined to venture off and find a cure for my disease. Who might you be? She asked weakly. She did not get a lot of visitors, mostly Usopp, who is her own son, so seeing a new person was surprising, but a welcome sight. My name is Luffy and I am a friend of Usopp's. He then approached her bedside, gently grabbed her hand and gave her a blue vial. Please take this. The fishman people are so advanced that they are ahead of the human population. This medicine was created by them in order to target destructive viruses that are aggressively deteriorating the body. Luffy did not know what disease Banchina had, but he was sure from Usopp's stories that it had something to do with a virus. Thank you, but do not tell anyone. I do not want to give Usopp hope. I understand, well I have to go, but please Banchina for Usopp. Fight this, and I will be seeing you again. He replied with a smile before leaving the home. Banchina had watched the young man exit the room, thinking to herself how he was so composed and helpful even though they only just met. A friend of Usopp's, huh? Somewhere in the East Blue the next day, in an unknown location in the East Blue, two people sat along a giant. One was an adult, and the other was a young boy. One with an empty handkerchief once filled with food, and the other with a big bag of what the young boy assumed was going to be food. So he plotted to get away to take the food from the old man. Old man, I know you have more food. Give it to me now, the young blonde exclaimed while swinging a tiny knife at the old man. Shut your mouth, boy, put that knife down and save what little energy you have. The blonde-haired pirate exclaimed as he looked at his right leg, contemplating whether to do it or not. He had given all the food that he could scavenge to the boy and kept the massive heap of treasure for himself. What good is the treasure if he was going to die anyway? He finally reached his resolve. He was going to do it. He was going to eat his own leg to survive. He forcefully took the tiny knife from the young boy and told him to go sit on his area. The young boy was angry, but complied, stomping his feet as he went. The pirate used to be a captain, who traversed the Grand Line in an amazing journey. But now he was alone in this stupid rock with this stupid boy. As he readied himself to cut his own leg for food, a hand caught his, surprising the pirate captain. He looked up and found a straw hat wearing man holding him back, stopping him from cutting his legs off. Was he already dead? Did he join the infamous Pirate King in the afterlife? Who? The glare blinded him, but his eyes eventually returned its focus. You don't need to do it, Zeff, he said. The pirate infamous for his moniker, Red Leg Zeff, was astonished. Who were these people? The boy. Despite nearing death from starvation, he was still worried about the young man. He looked at the boy's area and found that he was gone. Panic rang in his mind as he felt like he was hallucinating. His name is Sanji, and he is okay, Zeff. My crew had taken him and started to give him treatment. Brule is not a doctor, but she knows how to care for people. He then extended a hand towards the relieved captain. Come join us, we'll escort you both to a safe place. Who are you? He took the man's hand and was pulled up. He walked on his own while a finely dressed man and a skeleton man picked up his treasure. Don't worry, all that treasure will be yours to do whatever you want with it. Luffy could see that the man was worried about the treasure. He was still a pirate after all. My name is Monkey D. Luffy. As you already know, my name is Zeff, they call me Red Leg. Pleasure to meet you, responded Luffy. As they boarded the ship, Luffy already knew where their last destination would be. Arlong set a course to Konami Island. This time you'll be going down with me. Aye aye, Captain, exclaimed Arlong, glad that he can finally have a moment to train whoever that captain was so interested in. He wonders how his trainee would be. Konami Island. It took THS to travel to Konami Island. In this time, they got to know the uncanny pair of Sanji and Zeff, who met by an act of fate. Sanji had been a cabin boy aboard a cruise ship while Zeff was a pirate captain who attacked the cruise ship. And as fate would have it, a massive storm destroyed everything, leaving the two of them as the only survivors. As they arrived at Konami Island, a harbor was actually a welcomed sight as this island was more developed than the other islands they visited. Luffy was joined on the dock by Zeff and Sanji. In a few years' time, I will be back here, by then you both will be strong enough to join me on my journey to become king. Sure thing, Captain, I will make sure to train this kid till he can't move anymore. Zeff was carrying the sack of treasure over his shoulder while using his free hand to mess the hair of the young man. Whatever, old man. I will be strong enough to be in Captain Luffy's crew. Just you wait, exclaimed the young and eccentric Sanji. I believe it. Remember, Zeff, to reinforce your floating restaurant to be strong enough to withstand an armada. And make sure to keep strong people with you, just in case. No need for that, Captain Luffy. I will protect everything myself. Sanji exclaimed once more. Luffy smiled at the young man's energy. But at the same time, I will not let anyone go hungry. No matter what. He had a passionate look in his eyes. Luffy knew that look. That was the same look the Sanji of his time had when he was dead set on something. Then Sanji, take care of Zeff. Yes, Captain, replied Sanji. Then the duo waved goodbye to the Straw Hats. It was too early to have Sanji on board, and some training time with Red Leg Zeff, the legend himself, will do him wonders. Arlong, let's go, exclaimed Luffy. Now it was time to meet a certain young lady. Coming, Captain, replied Arlong as he jumped to where Luffy was, and joined him on their walk to Kokoyashi village. That's what you get for being such a smarty pants, exclaimed a bigger boy, as he shoved a young orange-haired girl on the ground. She was surrounded with a group of older boys who were bullying her. Eventually they got tired of pushing her around and moved on, leaving her to cry on the ground. Luffy extended a hand to the young girl, helping her up to her feet. Thank you, mister. Hey, I never saw you around before. Are you a traveler? Asked the orange-haired young lady. I am actually a traveler. My name is Luffy, and this is my friend Arlong. Luffy had brought Arlong to the front, who was scared to show his face. The stigma with fishman people was still rampant and it was unfair, but that's just how things were. Nice to meet you, Mr. Arlong, and Mr. Luffy, my name is Nami. She shook Luffy's hands and waited for Arlong to shake hers, to which he seemed to hesitate. What are you waiting for, Mr. Arlong? My mom says once you shake a stranger's hands it means you are no longer strangers. Arlong took her small hands and shook it, as gently as possible. You're funny, Mr. Arlong. Anyway, what brings you to town? I can show you around if you'd like. I know this place inside and out. Nami began to speak rapidly, as a young child would. Well, actually, it is you we will help. We saw how those boys were picking on you, Luffy said. Arlong was looking at him strangely. The look on his face was of confusion. Why was this kid not scared of her? She was a fish man, humans hate his kind. That's because I answer all my teacher's questions. They hate me cause I answer the questions. But the teacher will not teach us more things if I don't answer. I just love learning. Little Nami said as she played with the ground below her, twisting her feet on the gravel. Well, little one, I'll teach you some self-defense, volunteered Arlong, feeling bad for the young girl. Is that so? But I was going to show you around, you sure? Yeah, definitely, but it won't be easy. You up to it? Arlong asked the young girl, to which she eagerly nodded her head. Alright, the fundamentals of fishman karate is repetition. First form your feet like so, and your hands like this. Luffy smiled to himself and made his quiet exit. Aboard the ship, Lucci was now picking Brook's combat brain as the two were engaged in an intense sparring match. Lucci managed to dodge Brook's parry while the swordsman was never on the defensive. Why can't I get through? Exclaimed Lucci. Brook's sword was too quick and too accurate. Remember, Lucci, when combating a swordsman, you must take into account that the sword is an extension of a swordsman's own limb. Luffy returned to the ship to where Lucci and Brook continued to spar. And business was as usual, though Arlong returned when the moon was at its highest. Yo Arlong. Katakuri was on night duty. He sat at the crow's nest. Hi Katakuri. Arlong continued to his room, where Brûlé had already passed out from exhaustion of the day. But before going down to his room, he looked up at Katakuri, who was looking at the surrounding, staying alert. Hey Katakuri. I didn't believe it at first. I thought only you guys were nice because you've seen some crazy shit in the world and I'm not really scary for being a fish man. But that kid did not see me for my race. She just listened and absorbed what I thought her. And then when she fell asleep from exhaustion, I asked around where her home was and people who not even come close to me. Until I finally found her home by going door to door. Her mother was nice and took her in, thanking me and asking me if I wanted some tea. Well, anyway, humans aren't so bad after all, was Arlong's final comment before retreating to his sleeping quarters. And Katakuri, in his post at the crow's nest, the guise of the night sky, smiled to himself, glad that his friend was coming around. He caressed his teeth, the subject of the bullying he endured in his early life. I can somewhat relate. The behavior against his people is taught. People are not born evil. Thus the saga in the East Blue finally reached its end. The Straw Hat Grand Armada made some new familiar allies, had some much needed training, and was now entering the Grand Line to go to Alabasta. But Luffy had a reason for wanting to go through the Red Line. And as the crew descended from the massive waterfall, a certain blue whale greeted them with an angry look on its face, scars covering its forehead. Hi Laboon. I'm sorry it took so long, but I'm here. Brook approached his friend. Boon, yelled the massive whale as the long-lost friends finally reunited. Brook hugged the forehead of Laboon while the whale had a happy look in his eyes. Welcome to the Grand Line. The group had a brief pit stop with Laboon, though this time they decided to bring the whale along with them on their journey. Arlong specially took a liking of the giant whale as he decided to mount the creature and create a harness so that he could stand on its back and command it underwater. Brook found it funny but glad that the crew took his friend on their journey. Though the more peculiar case was a man, who they learned was living within the stomach of the whale. It is rude to talk to someone without introductions. He held his spear on his hands as he looked over the Straw Hat Pirates. My name is Crocus, blood type A and B, doctor. The group deadpanned, at first believing that he was threatening them. My name is Monkey D. Luffy and I am the captain of this crew. He shook the doctor's hands. Then the doctor turned and looked at the skeletal man. So you came back for Laboon, glad you were able to. I was thinking you died. Crocus took the hand of Brook, the two sharing a moment. I did die with my crew, and I was reborn when I met Captain Luffy. Good to hear. Anyway, my job here is done. I cared for that whale for so long and now that he found you again I think I'll go find another place to situate myself. Crocus had gathered what he wanted to bring with him. You can join us on our journey, we could use a doctor. Luffy asked, but he knew the man's answer before it could escape his lips. No thank you. I'm done with traveling the world. Say, Do you want me to tell you about Laughtail? Nah, we'll find it ourselves. Sweet yourselves. Anyway, I'll be going then. Hey Crocus, I know a place called Drum Island. There's a certain blue-nosed reindeer with the human fruit. If you want, you can teach him to be the best doctor possible. I'll think about it. Crocus then dove into the water. Wait, he's swimming? Asked Brule. Crocus was the doctor of Gold D. Roger. He is far stronger than people give him credit. He's going to be alright. Suddenly, a massive sea king was launched out of the water by the swimming Crocus. He was letting the other creatures of the sea know that nobody can mess with him. See what I mean? With that, the crew retreated back to their post. Arlong decided that he would ride Laboon and lead the Straw Hats to their next destination. It took them some time to reach Whiskey Peak, and, just like in the previous timeline, they were greeted by happy villagers, who were actually involved in the Baroque Works organization. Luffy let things play out as his crew was treated to a feast, though none of the people were familiar to him. Funnily enough, as the moon reaches its highest point in the sky, Brook was fast asleep. Brule had eaten and drank so much along with Arlong that they were passed out in each other's arms. Luffy had pretended to be asleep, causing Hancock to fall asleep in his arms. Meanwhile, Katakuri, Mihawk, and Lucci were on high alert, as they caught early on that something was off. "Drink some more, friends," said one of the friendly villagers. "I'm good," replied Lucci. They stared at each for an intense few seconds. Then the man finally broke the stare down. "Alright, the gig is up." The friendly villager pulled out a pistol, pointing it at the head of Lucci. The rest of the friendly villagers followed suit as they also pointed their guns at Katakuri and Mihawk. But some people had guns pointed at the sleeping Straw Hats as well. "Give us all your money right now. You have fallen into the trap of Baroque Works." "The who?" Lucci wasn't taking them seriously, cleaning his ears as the Baroque Works agent mouthed off. "Look, bastard, either you comply or we kill you. Our numbers far surpass your numbers, so best lead us to your treasure." But the agent found a foot in his mouth as Lucci had enough. All hell broke loose. Katakuri trapped the people around him in mochi and casing. Mihawk swung his sword to the people who had their guns pointed at Arlong and Brule. Lucci went go aid Brook, knocking out the people with a swift kick and series of punches. Luffy decided to finally open his eyes and grab the pistols that were pointed at him and broke them all. Hancock continued to sleep from exhaustion and 3 of the 8 Straw Hats went to work. "Have it your way then," Luffy said with a smile as he let his 3 commanders run through the enemies as if they were nothing. And they really were irrelevant, as the sheer power of his 3 men were too much for the millions agents. Even the thousands and the hundreds agents present for the party were no match for the Straw Hats. Arlong, Brule, Brook, and Hancock eventually woke up through the commotion and joined in the one-sided fight. They had no chance at all. As Lucci held up the final member of the Baroque Works by his shirt, Luffy made his way through the bodies of all the agents defeated by his group. "Good, let's move on then." At his words, his crew followed right behind him. Lucci tossed the man to the side, allowing him to survive, to tell the tale of that day. "Boss. Mr. Zero," said the trembling survivor of Whiskey Peak. "Yes," replied Mr. Zero. At this point in time, the Baroque Works have been in operation in Alabasta for 4 years and some months. "Mugiwara is here, Mr. Zero. He brought with him his entire crew." What would a new world powerhouse be doing in my land?" exclaimed Mr. Zero. "They are going to Alabasta now. They just left Whiskey Peak. Mr. Zero, his crew is too much. I'm the only one conscious." With this, Mr. Zero threw the snail against the wall, but luckily the snail caught itself against the wall. "What's the problem, Mr. Zero?" A cowboy hat-wearing woman stood at the doorway of Mr. Zero. She had recently been recruited to decipher the poneglyph in Alabasta for the location of the ancient weapon. "Ms. All Sunday," Mr. Zero was trembling with anger. "Mugiwara is here. Prepare all our people. We have to let the kingdom know that we are under attack." "Alright, Mr. Zero. I will let Pell know. Alabasta Kingdom, outskirts." "Hey, Captain." The Straw Hats stood right next to each other, with Luffy in the middle of the group. Arlong was in the very right end of the line with Brule to his left, then Brook. On the other end was Brook, and to his right was Mihawk, Katakuri, and then Hancock, who stood beside Luffy. "Yes, Arlong?" Luffy asked, looking at his crewmate. Why are the entire Alabasta forces out here, intercepting us? Before the Straw Hat crew, Alabasta has sent out its military force to indeed intercept the Straw Hats. The group was led by Pell, a very powerful zone-type fruit user. Straw Hats, we suggest you turn back as you are not welcomed in the kingdom of Alabasta, exclaimed Pell. 1,000-strong warriors give or take, said Katakuri towards Luffy, to which he smiled at Katakuri for the information. Pell of Alabasta, I only wish an audience with King Cobra. I have some troubling information in regards to Sir Crocodile. Funny you would say something like that. Sir Crocodile warned us that you would try to throw some slander at him. Pell exclaimed back. He was already the commander despite being so young. Really impressive. What I have are facts. When did your reign stop, Pell? What the hell do you mean reign? Sir Crocodile is the best thing ever to happen to Alabasta. No pirates dare to invade our lands. Then Pell put 2 and 2 together. Once Sir Crocodile arrived, the rain suddenly stopped coming, turning the land into a desert wasteland. It has to be a coincidence, right? If you will not listen to reason, then I will get an audience with King Cobra, by any means necessary. Luffy disappeared from where he stood. He was too fast for anyone to catch, but the next time he appeared, he unleashed a powerful palm strike at the stomach of Pell, causing the zone fruit user to gasp out of air. He doubled over, causing an uncomfortable shift to occur within the Alabasta soldiers. But 4 soldiers surrounded Luffy, each with different weapons. They were stronger than a common soldier. We are the Sumigari guards of the royal family. Today you have seen us. Luffy looked at the 4 men that surrounded him. There was a large muscular man wielding a giant battle sword. A tall hunchback man with 2 pole arms for a weapon. Then there was a tall and thin man who wielded a double-edged sword. Lastly, there was a bulky man who wielded a large axe. Today, gentlemen, I choose to meet your king in peace. With that, Luffy disappeared once more in a blur, leaving behind a large cloud of steam in his wake. We don't want Captain to have all the fun now. Brook twisted his cane as the rest of the ground began to move forward. The Sumigari guards attempted to chase after Luffy but was stopped by one man. Katakuri had moved ahead of the group to confront the fiercest warriors of Alabasta. The rest of the Straw Hats dealt with the 1,000 men of Alabasta's main battle force. Remember, Captain said do not kill, relayed Mihawk. Yeah, when do I ever kill for fun? Arlong gave a toothy grin before jumping ahead, kicking 2 guards at once and tossing another guard to a large crowd. There he goes again, acting all cool. Brule commented, she was once again backline as this suits her ability best. Then Hancock gave her a sly smile for her comment. You like it though, she commented before joining the battle as well. With the command of her dearly beloved, Hancock did not activate her devil fruit ability and went into battle with only using blunt force to shut down the army. Mihawk followed after with using the dull end of his blade. And Lucci was using his mastery of Rokushiki, though he held back from killing his opponents. Brook had a trick up his sleeve. His slices were not fatal, but they were chilly, as in cold air emitted from his sword. Then there was Katakuri, who fought the Sumigari guards. If he wanted to, he could probably encompass them in mochi and call it a day, but he needed to hone his other skills. He chose to instead fight them without his devil fruit. Only his trident was going to be used. Come at me at your strongest. Katakuri twisted his trident, finally resting it between his elbow and hiding it in his back. The warriors attacked as one. The big guy with the broadsword attempted to cut Katakuri in half, though he was parried by Katakuri's trident. The skinny man with the double-edged sword tried to cut his head off, and Katakuri responded by shifting his trident slightly, causing the broadsword guy to fall forward and allowing Katakuri to block the double-edged blade. He then stomped the broadsword guy over the head, knocking him straight to the ground. As far as the double-edged sword guy, Katakuri grabbed him by his face and slammed him on the ground. The 2 warriors were unable to battle any longer. Bah! How could you do that to Hyota and Arrow? Exclaimed the dual polearm user. Be careful of this man, this is Dogtooth of the Big Mom Pirates, commented the axe-wielding individual. I am First Commander Katakuri of the Straw Hat Grand Armada. Mugiwara is my captain, he declared, tossing his trident at the man with the dual polearm. He blocked the trident with his polearm, but Katakuri was just too quick, grasping his trident and pushing forward. The sheer force of Katakuri broke the polearm of the warrior, causing him to fall backwards. Katakuri stood above the fallen warrior with a deadly look in his face. "Brahm!" exclaimed the axe-wielding man. But Katakuri turned his head towards him. This caused shivers to travel down his spine. He was desperate. All he knew was to attack even if he was going to lose. Katakuri respected him for this, allowing the man to swing his mighty axe, though the first commander caught his axe by the palm of both hands. "Good try, big man." Katakuri pushed him back by sheer power, causing the man to stumble backwards. Katakuri then jumped in the air and launched a spinning back kick upside the head of the warrior, knocking him out. In his wake, Katakuri defeated the famed Sumigari warriors. "No, we can't fall to a bunch of pirates." Pell attempted to get up, but the injury from Luffy's initial strike was not allowing him to get up. "We are not your enemy, understanding our strength. If we wanted to, we could have overtaken your country, right?" Pell's eyes widened as he looked around. Their massive army was being manhandled by 7 strong individuals. They still had him. They still have Sir Crocodile. But where was he? Where was the hero of Alabasta? "Fine," was all Pell could say. "Alabasta Palace, throne room. King Cobra, I advise you to escape immediately. Sir Crocodile, I will see that my country does not fall to the hands of pirates." "What kind of king will abandon his own people?" King Cobra exclaimed, with his passion echoing in his sentiment. The room echoed with agreement as the meeting was taking place with the highest member of the court for King Cobra. A young blue-haired girl listened in on the meeting. She was very curious and impressionable. She stood outside of the throne room, listening through a small air filter beside the main double door to the throne room of the event that was transpiring. Though she suddenly jumped up when she felt a presence of a strong person behind her. She quickly turned around and saw a straw hat-wearing man. His red vest revealed his strong stature, and he wore khaki shorts and wooden sandals. He must be a farmer. "Halt, I am Princess Vivi of Alabasta. Who are you?" said the young girl, who caused a smile to form at the man before her. She was alone without her usual guard because she escaped from the confinement of her room to stoop in on the meeting. "My princess, I am a friend, here to meet the king." "Very well, state your name." "Monkey D. Luffy." "Well, Mr. Monkey, my father is currently handling a very important problem. Your troubles with your crops will be resolved as soon as we are able to obtain some water from neighboring lands. But since you came out all this way and my father will not find out, I suppose I can grant you a barrel of water for your crops. You can find it in Alubarna. And tell them Princess Vivi sent you." Finally the child finished her sentence. Luffy was surprised at how well versed she was, more so about her kindness to her people. "Princess Vivi, this matter is more important than mere crops. I will just show you." Luffy walked past the princess, opening the double door that led to the throne room. Princess Vivi was going to protest, but it was too late. King Cobra and Sir Crocodile stopped their conversation, and the latter had a flabbergasted look on his face. "That is him, King Cobra. Hurry and escape. I will take care of this pirate." "Sir Crocodile, you have done so much for Alabasta, and you are so loyal to me, despite the voice against you as my successor. Sir Crocodile, if I die here today, with my court as my witness, I declare you to rule Alabasta until my Vivi comes of age." To this Sir Crocodile mouth formed into a massive grin. Then his golden hook sparkled in the light. The moment King Cobra declared a verbal succession to Crocodile, was the moment he would have died. Crocodile brought his golden hook and aimed for the stomach of the king. It would have been a killing blow, if it had connected. But Luffy, well, he was too quick for the warlord, using Gear Second to enhance his speed and retrieved King Cobra before the hook of Sir Crocodile could reach him. "Mugiwara!" the king exclaimed in confusion. He was supposed to be the enemy. Why did Sir Crocodile attempt to stab him? "What is the meaning of this?" exclaimed King Cobra. "Once you've passed on, I will be king of Alabasta, right?" Sir Crocodile started with a smile on his face. "No loose ends." He then pointed his hook hand at the young princess, whose neck was threatened by a small dagger. A young raven-haired woman that Luffy was ever so familiar with, held the princess at knife point. "No, please. Take me, not my Vivi." King Cobra collapsed on the ground. At the collective gasp of the crowd, nobody knew what to do. The guards attempted to get close, but they sunk on the floor by quicksand. Luffy simply observed, Crocodile was going to go on. His Badir castle is surrounded by my agents. Your army is stuck dealing with the Straw Hats. All I need to become king is to kill you. He pointed at King Cobra. You. He pointed at Princess Vivi. And you Mugiwara. He pointed at Luffy and said it in such a venomous tone that if words could kill, Luffy would be dead. But why? We treated you so well, you helped us against pirate invasions. Yeah, it was all for this moment. I had to become king somehow, and luckily, Mugiwara sped up my plans. Hate to break your bubble, but I'm here to do two things. Luffy interrupted, first looking at the raven-haired women holding a knife at the neck of the princess. I'm here for Nico Robin. Then he turned to Crocodile. And I'm here to kick some sense into your power-hungry ass. Robin tensed at the statement by the Straw Hat Man. How did he know my name? Crocodile did not know what to make of his statement. But he was worth 1 billion berry, and he could not take him lightly. Fine, you want a piece of me? Then come at me. Crocodile morphed into sand and launched himself at Luffy. King Cobra, please clear the hall. My crew should arrive any time to deal with the Baroque Works agents outside. Luffy could tell that the king was concerned for his army. Don't worry, king, your army is just knocked out. I gave my crew strict instructions. Then he looked at Robin as Crocodile was quickly approaching him. Robin, I can protect you better than whatever this asshole promised you. Then as Crocodile neared him, Luffy's fist turned into a resin black color and he slammed it over the head of the warlord, knocking him onto the ground. A collective gasp echoed in the room. Robin dropped her knife in shock, allowing Vivi to run to her father. She trembled at the visual defeat of Crocodile, the man who was supposed to protect her from the government in exchange for her poneglyph interpretation skills. King Cobra immediately led his people outside, choosing to carry Princess Vivi and leaving the room immediately. If the words of the pirate was true, then King Cobra will put his faith in Mugiwara to end this mutiny. The hall finally cleared, leaving Luffy and Crocodile. The warlord quickly got up, his anger could not be contained. Shall we? Luffy's skin glowed a pink color, with steam emitting from his body. Haki. I should have known. Crocodile covered his hands with a similar resin-like substance. Alabasta Palace. Outside, just as Sir Crocodile claimed, the main force of his numbered agents from Mr. 1 through Mr. 5 along with their partners were present. They all stood in a line to block the way of escape for the royal family, the court, and his escorts. Make way for the king, exclaimed one of the surviving guards. But one of the crazy-haired looking guys with a red coat flicked a booger at the unsuspecting guard. Then it blew up on his face, his coat caught on fire from the explosion. But a rumbling underground began and suddenly something emerged from the ground, a massive whale and a fishman on its back. Motherfuckers! Arlong emerged on the back of Laboon. They had found an underground reservoir thanks to the help of Alabasta's local sea life and took them to the capital itself. Combine that with the perfect timing and you get a grand entrance. The king's party and the Baroque Works agents jumped out of the way. Each of the members were shocked at the massive whale emerging from the dry desert ground of Alabasta. Sheesh, Arlong, you sure know how to steer some excitement. A man with a fashionable goatee, a tall hat, and a slick-looking necktie that was halfway undone. His dress shirt was also a bit undone, showing his chiseled chest. He rubbed his neck as he was in the process of rolling up his sleeve at the exchange that was about to take place. Laboon landed on top of Mr. Fore, a stout baseball-wielding person. Miss Goldenweek and Miss Valentine were the former holders of the rank, as these ladies were mostly nobodies, who were both unlucky enough to freeze in place when the whale emerged from the ground. Thanks, Laboon. Arlong jumped from the back of the whale, landing beside Lucci. Laboon let out a happy noise that only a whale could make and slithered back into the hole he came from, returning to the underground waterway. Mr. 5 and Mr. 3 were immediately intrigued, setting up a match between the quartet. Babe, you left me to make a grand entrance, exclaimed Brûlée, who was mainly joking. She then caught the eye of Miss Merry Christmas, who was a stout, grouchy lady who looked like she would barter for 3 whole apple pies for the price of 1 apple. She was the partner of Mr. 4, who was still flattened, along with Miss Valentine and Miss Goldenweek. Disgusting all around, exclaimed Miss Doublefinger as she morphed her fingertips into sharp, pointy spikes. She attempted to charge at Brûlée but stopped mid-stride when she sensed danger. Good thing she did too, because if she did not stop, A powerful stomp would have crushed every bone in her body. Hancock landed in front of her, creating a crater where Miss Doublefinger should have been. "Do not try to hurt my friend, you'll answer to me." Her head was so far back that she arched her back, and she pointed at the Baroque Works agent with a very intense gaze. "Why is he just watching?" Mr. 2 commented as he was alone without a partner. He was strong enough to carry on his work without one, so Crocodile just let him do what he wanted. Mr. 2 was referring to Katakuri, who stood at a distance, watching the events as it transpired. "It's because there is no need for him in this battle." Brook stepped forward, each step releasing some steam from his chilling ability. Brook had learned so much about himself in the time with such powerful people that he was able to hone his devil fruit power to a new height. Oh, the Okama formed his signature fighting pose and a match was about to transpire between the two. "You are the strongest, then you are my opponent." Mr. 1 morphed his arms into blades, using his devil fruit ability. But someone else had a say against this. "You won't even reach him." Dracul Mahawk stepped in the side of Katakuri, as he drew the black blade. "I am your opponent." "Fine, you'll die as well." The King's group moved through the building tension, where the Baroque agent attempted to intercept them. The Straw Hats would blow their attempts. This allowed King Cobra and Princess Vivi to have enough time to escape to their doomsday bunker. It was said to be strong enough to withstand a buster call. Then there it was, the match of Alabasta finally set. The pre-show was already set. The fighters were ready to go anytime. Once the curtain called for a match for the pre-show, with Laboon emerging from an underground waterway. Now the whale has returned to the ocean water and the match was finally set. Now onwards to the first match. Straw Hat Grand Armada 4th Division Commander Arlong, the Saw, versus Baroque Works Agent Mr. 5. You must be wondering how I could have tamed a massive beast such as that killer whale. Well, I must tell you that. But Arlong was distracted by the fact that Mr. 5 continued to dig his nose, despite his obvious monologue. "Can you not do that for 4 seconds and let me finish?" Mr. 5 did stop, pulled out his finger from his nose and revealed a booger that he had been picking for some time. Then he rolled it up with his finger and aimed it at Arlong. Then, as if things couldn't get weirder, Mr. 5 flicked his booger at Arlong, who responded by slapping it out of the air. Though this was his mistake as the booger exploded on the back of his hands, and the impact was strong enough to knock his arm and caused him to take a step back. "Hey, this is my devil fruit ability. I can make any part of my body explosive, without damage to myself," proclaimed the agent. Typical bad guy, spewing his abilities and believing that he is invincible. "Right. Well, I hope you're ready for this then." Arlong formed his hands into an open palm. Then he brought his other arm back. Fishman Karate. 100 tiles true punch. Arlong extended his retreat fist forward, seemingly punching the air. But the punch was so quick and so precise that a fist mark emerged from the stomach of Mr. 5. "How?" he exclaimed as he doubled over. Arlong did not even make contact with him, but his stomach was aching as if a fist connected with it. "You have a really strong ability and you choose to flick your booger." Arlong ran forward, closing the gap. Mr. 5 brought up his right arm and activated his explosive abilities in his forearm to block whatever Arlong was going to do. The best offense is the best defense after all. Fishman Karate, Surface Crushing Stamp, an original move that would have been performed underwater. Arlong has practiced the moves that he usually would perform underwater in the surface and created a variant for the surface version of the underwater Fishman Karate. The sole of his foot met the forearm of Mr. 5. An explosion emitted from his forearm, but Arlong went through his devil fruit ability, unscathed. "How could you survive my explosion?" Mr. 5 was defeated, flat on his back. Arlong stood over him with a smirk on his face. It took him 3 hits to defeat the Baroque agent, and he only had to use it once. That's what's so funny with you humans. You think you're invincible hiding behind your abilities. I mean, if you made better use of your power, you could have lasted more than 3 hits against me. Arlong crouched down and looked at the face of the man he defeated. "They call you Mr. 5, but what is your real name?" "Gem. My name is Gem." "Pleasure to meet you, Gem. Say, since your whole organization is going to fall apart, and I kind of need to lead a division, would you like to join me under the 4th Division of the Straw Hat Grand Armada?" Arlong extended his hands for Gem to take. Mr. 5. No Gem's eyes widened after hearing the offer. The Baroque works would definitely not survive that day as he fought against what everyone agreed on to be the weakest of the group. And even Arlong was a monster. He needed to seek new employment. If only I were stronger. Ah, what the hell? And Gem took his hands, officially joining the 4th Division of the Grand Armada. Match 1. Arlong, W. vs Mr. 5 Straw Hat Grand Armada 4th Division member Brûlé vs Baroque Works agent Miss Merry Christmas. This match was going to be fantastic, but it would be a match that no one, other than the 2 participants, will ever witness. Miss Merry Christmas immediately dove underground. Her stout appearance reminded Brûlé of a very judgmental person. Luckily her friend Hancock prevented the aggressive approach of Miss Doublefinger, as she seems to be the stronger of the 2. That would have been an interesting fight, a little more challenging than fighting Miss Merry Christmas, but overall Brûlé would have won, easily. But alas, it was a battle between Brûlé and Miss Merry Christmas. The sequence of events were as followed if you asked anybody else other than the 2 fighters. Brûlé and Miss Merry Christmas stood a few yards from each other. Then Miss Merry Christmas dove underground. Brûlé manifested a mirror from the palm of her hands, creating one big enough to fit a person in. Then Miss Merry Christmas emerged underground, giving Brûlé an uppercut that would shatter into a million tiny mirrors as Brûlé created a mirror clone of herself. If anyone blinked, they would have missed it, but Brûlé used her mirror to swallow Miss Merry Christmas, then disappearing herself within the mirror. The last event that literally could have happened in the same second was Brûlé emerging from the mirror world, with Miss Merry Christmas flat on her face, unable to stand, unable to even move a muscle. "Curse you and your power," she said before finally passing out. Brûlé had an overwhelming victory and nobody, but those who participated that day, could have known what happened in the mirror world battle that day. If you were to ask Miss Merry Christmas, what happened in the mirror? She would shiver and collapse, crawling into a corner. Match 2. Brûlé, W. vs Miss Merry Christmas Straw Hat Grand Armada 3rd Commander Rob Lucci vs Baroque Works agent Mr. 3. The match was going on longer than expected. Mr. 3 created some wax clones, ensuring that a distance was created from the melee fighter. "Fool! You won't be able to beat my wax army," Mr. 3 exclaimed, manifesting a wax clone of himself. Though they lacked color, they were the perfect clone of himself. "What's that?" Lucci went to drop kick a wax clone, then switched targets to a different clone, throwing a back elbow at the clone. "I said you will not beat me, so give up," exclaimed Mr. 3, but it was truly strange that Lucci was not even trying to get close to him. He seemed to be enjoying himself in just fighting. Lucci did a tornado drop kick on a row of 3 wax clones. Then he threw a double back elbow on another set of clones. A smile covered his face as Lucci went through the clones like nobody's business. What impressed Mr. 3 more than anything was how his hat remained on his head even despite the erratic movements he was performing through the series of kicks and punches. In a matter of a few minutes, Mr. 3 started to lose his confidence. For every wax clone he created, 2 more would perish at the hands of Rob Lucci. In a manner of desperation, Mr. 3 unleashed his final move, unleashing a wave of wax throughout his surroundings. The wax wave crashed about 3 yards from himself, where his wax clone remained unharmed, but Lucci was gone. "Did I win?" He began to smile to himself. A small fit of laughter began on his lips. "You know I really like you." In a matter of seconds, Lucci was by Mr. 3's side. He jumped in shock but was caught with a knee to his stomach. Mr. 3 doubled over from pain. His wax creations collapsed as there was no longer a person to command them. He gasped for air as Lucci looked down at him. "You could have done something like Brûlé's mirror clones, but those are creepy and feel like I'm fighting my real crewmates. Your clones were fun as a testing dummy." "Hey, what do you mean testing dummy? I'll have you know my work is art." Mr. 3 shot up from the insult, but by getting up so fast he pulled a muscle on his stomach, causing him to double over again in pain. "You're a funny guy. Your boss is as good as dead anyway. Want to come along?" "Why me?" Mr. 3 asked. "Hey, you seem like a cool guy, that's all. Plus I need people in my division. Can't have Arlong beating me." Lucci pointed at Arlong, who was having an animated, but friendly conversation with the former Mr. 5, Gem. Mr. Five joined youched his chin and ultimately decided to accept the offer as it was in his best interest. Alright, I will join you. The name is Rob Lucci. Galdino. But in the event that your crew loses to Mr. Zero. You don't know me. And to that Lucci burst out laughing. What? Was it something I said? To this Lucci laughed even harder. He now wiped a tear from his eyes at laughing so hard. He paused for a moment repeating what Galdino stated. In the event that my crew loses, and laughed some more. Match 3. Lucci, W. versus Mr. 3 Straw Hat Grand Armada Queen Boa Hancock versus Baroque Works agent Miss Doublefinger. Kid, you're pretty cocky for someone so young. Hancock made an observation, but she was pretty young herself, though not heavily reliant on her fruit ability. You're one to talk pretty face. Too bad I will have to kill you today. Miss Doublefinger morphed her fingers into spikes, and then emitted some more spikes around herself, creating the perfect defense. But in the world of Hancock, there was no such thing. The spikes were not a problem for the newly self-appointed queen. Her devil fruit ability along with her proficient use of her legs allowed her to turn the spikes into stones before it could even connect with her skin, and broke then off the source. Miss Doublefinger yelped in pain as it felt like a part of her fell off when her spikes were broken off. I would be severely disappointed if I lose to you today. Hancock stated simply, her hair covered her eyes slightly giving a dangerous look for her. Please, no more. Begged Miss Doublefinger as she crawled away from Hancock. Fine, but if you raise your hands against my crew again, I will break both of your arms. To this warning, Hancock turned to join Katakuri in overlooking the escape of King Cobra. But she felt a spike go through her stomach, right down her core. Hancock, exclaimed Katakuri as he immediately switched courses to aid the captain's queen. Though he immediately stopped in his tracks, as Hancock lifted her head giving him a look as if to give him the sign to return to protecting King Cobra. Ha 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 ha. That's what you get for being so naive. This is not some fairy tale princess. This is the real world, exclaimed Miss Doublefinger, as her arm was extended through the stomach of Hancock. She had a maniac look on her face as she drew blood on her opponent. Katakuri understood what Hancock wanted and with a final nod, returned to watching over King Cobra and his party. I absolutely hate liars. Hancock said quietly, grasping the spike with both hands. Then slowly, the spike began to turn into stone from her stomach through the tip of the spike. Then Hancock ripped the stone spike out of her stomach and broke it in half. What the? Miss Doublefinger fell on the ground, catching herself with one hand, but she lost balance as where her other hand was supposed to catch her, there was nothing. And thus the agent fell on one side, a shock expression replaced her once confident look. What the hell? She looked at her hand, as if to make sure it was there. She brought it up to her face only to find blood dripping into her face. The bleeding was slowed down by the petrification of her arms. Where the one hand was there, and the other was not. You get what you deserve, bitch. Hancock flicked her hair, and despite the injury in her abdomen, she continued to stand over the fallen agent. Before Miss Doublefinger could let out a scream of agony, she passed out of shock. She ripped the cloth from her dress to put pressure over her wound. This would at least stop the bleeding for the moment. They should really try and find a doctor. Match 4. Hancock, W. vs Miss Doublefinger Straw Hat Grand Armada 5th Division Commander, Soul Prince, Brook vs Baroque Works Agent Mr. 2. You are very interesting Skeleton-san, Mr. 2 stated plainly. You as well Mr. Okama. Replied Brook as he continued to emit cold air from himself. The chilling air could reach Mr. 2's soul. It was pretty scary if he was being honest. Would you hit a woman? Mr. 2 passed his right hand over his face. His body immediately morphed into a figure of a woman whereas his voice also took on a voice of whoever he morphed his face to. Depends if you would show me your panties. Brook said seriously, he still had a look of wanting to slice down his opponent. Sure, replied Mr. 2, removing his swan pants and revealing a pair of pink-laced panties. Brook took a moment to absorb the entire interaction before finally responding. Fool, I am not affected by your deception. He extended his arms outward to show that he was not affected as if to shrug off the display of vulgarity. Though in reality Brook's nose was bleeding feverishly. Though he had no nose, just a hole. Yo ho ho skeleton joke. By the exhibitionistic distraction, Mr. 2 obtained the upper hand, back kicking the head of the skeletal man to the back of his head. Match 5. Brook vs Mr. 2, W. Just kidding. Brook grabbed his head, which had been twisted backwards, and returned it to form. That is quite a skill, Okama-san. Brook drew his cane close to his chest. He then retrieved his blade, showing a glimmer of it that flashed in the sunlight. Oh! Mr. 2 passed his face again with his right hand, this time morphing into a child. In body and voice. Skeleton-san, will you hit a little boy? But the little boy, which was really Mr. 2, was kicked square in the jaw by Brook. You bet I will, he screamed comically. The boy fell backwards from the force of the kick. He massaged the bruise on his face. Fine. How about a frail old lady? Just as Mr. 2 tried to get up once more, this time with the face and body of an older lady, Brook did the same thing, drop-kicking him once more. Nope. Then I know your weakness. Mr. 2 brought his hands to his face for the last time, finally understanding what he must do, morphing into the woman that he initially morphed into. Beware. My panties. Mr. 2 shot up, removing his swan skirt, revealing his pink-laced panties once again. Mr. 2 smirked in claiming victory as Brook did not move an inch. Well, if you must, put your sword down and… But for the very last time, Mr. 2 met the blunt side of Brook's blade. A bitch slap with a sword from hell was performed by the 5th Division commander, which caused Mr. 2 to spiral. Then Brook followed with another swing of his blade over the head of the Okama, which ultimately defeated the 3rd strongest agent of the Baroque Works organization. The first being Mr. 0 and second being Mr. 1. You have bested me today, Skeleton-san. Mr. 2 laid flat on his back, unable to even fully use his fighting skills as he tried to win via underhanded tactics. Maybe there was a time and place for using his fruit, and when he should use his Okama Kenpo. It is because Brook reshiated his blade into his cane as he wasn't able to use it. His battle with Mr. 2 only took 2 drop kicks and a bitch sword slap from hell. It would have been more interesting if it were an actual fight, but alas, there they were. You do not show a swordsman the same panties twice. Match 5. Brook, W. vs Mr. 2 Straw Hat Grand Armada 2nd Division Commander Dracule, Hawkeye, Mahawk vs Baroque Works Agent Mr. 1. The youth of Mr. 1 allowed him to move quickly, slashing and hacking at Mahawk at a rapid rate. And Dracule Mahawk, sharp as ever, parried all of his strikes with the utmost skill and precision. He would not even move from his current position, as he redirected the strike of the blade man with each swing of his blade. You bastard! Mr. 1 yelled as he brought both arms over his head and threw it down over the head of Mahawk. But Mahawk simply shifted his blade horizontally, catching Mr. 1 mid-strike. I am to be the king's greatest swordsman. I can't lose to the likes of a poser like you. Mahawk pushed him back with a diagonal slash, cutting the bladed fruit user. Mr. 1 caught himself mid-air, turning to slow his momentum, and finally landed on both feet. Sure you will, replied the agent cockily. But this only caused Mahawk to smirk. Instead of continuing, decided that it would be best to answer the challenge of the fake swordsman. Mahawk brought his black blade over his head, not wavering on looking at Mr. 1 directly in his eyes. It was as if he was piercing his soul. Gah! Mr. 1 dashed forward, wiping up a whirlwind in his wake. His speed was nothing to ignore. For someone so young, Mahawk was impressed by his muscle control and acceleration, and yet, it was not enough. Mahawk brought down his blade as Mr. 1 entered his range. The timing was so precise that Mr. 1 could not believe what just happened. Mahawk returned his blade in his back and Mr. 1 lay flat on the ground, a massive gash across his crest. I was in my blade form. He coughed up blood as he spoke, yet Mahawk ignored him, not deeming him to be good enough to warrant an answer. If you don't kill me now, I will find you later, and I will kill you. Just one sentence, that should be enough to deliver his overwhelming victory. Yeah, he'll entertain the fallen agent with one sentence to break his spirit even further. You do not deserve death by my blade. With that, Mahawk walked back to his crew, who were all wrapping up with their battles. The wind picked up as the desert storm was starting to kick in. Mahawk walked through the whirlwind, coolly walking away from his victory. If anyone asked him how his battle went, he would shrug at the notion of it being considered a battle, as for him, it was easy. Match 6. The Hawk, W. vs Mr. 1 pre-main event Katakuri had successfully escorted the king into the safety of a doomsday bunker. He would hang around the bunker in case anyone would be able to pass through their defense, but more likely than not, his crewmates would win their battles. The only hiccup in their battles was Hancock, who is too trusting for her own good. The first to join him was Mihawk, who easily defeated his opponent. Wasn't even a swordsman, he commented as he joined Katakuri in awaiting the rest of the crew to finish up with their battles. The next person to join them was Hancock, who held a cloth over her wound. Luckily Brule joined them as well. Brule immediately began to take care of her friend's wounds. Then there was Arlong, laughing at something Jem stated. "This is Jem, he'll be working under me," stated Arlong, who wiped a tear over his eyes. Brook was next, who brought Bentham with him. "This is my new friend who has followed me despite my insistence to leave me alone. Skeleton-san, I only wish to best you in battle. Once I have done so, then I will leave you alone." Bentham was twirling as he spoke, which made Hancock laugh. But with her laughter, her fresh wound began to hurt. "Easy now, get some rest, Hancock," commented Brule, who was the designated doctor for the meantime. The last to arrive was Lucci, who brought Galdino with him. "This guy thinks that. Lucci began but couldn't help himself and laughed uncontrollably. "Damn it, I only said if Mr. Zero wins. He's definitely on a different level than us all," Galdino commented, embarrassed by how much Lucci was laughing at him. "Captain Luffy will never lose, he's the man to be king," Katakuri responded with a matter-of-fact statement, causing Galdino to tremble in fear. Sure. Thus the group looked over to the main building, where the fight between Crocodile and Luffy was currently taking place. A body suddenly flew through the roof of the building, causing a trail of dust to follow said body. "God damn it all to hell. Mr. Zero won. I told you so," screamed Galdino, running around in a circle. Though nobody else panicked. He then stopped as he Bentham grabbed him by the shoulder to pull him out of the way. A shiny golden hook landed in front of them, inches from killing Galdino if he wasn't moved. Galdino and Bentham looked at each other, then finally looked at the hook once more. "No way," Galdino stated. Then, as he feared, Lucci continued to laugh at him. "Told you so," Lucci said as he stopped himself from his fit of laughter as his stomach was starting to feel painful from laughing so hard. Straw Hat Grand Armada Head Commander Monkey D. Mugiwara, Luffy vs Baroque Works Mr. Zero Crocodile. Why, Crocodile attempted to get a hook through the guard of Mugiwara. But the Straw Hat captain caught his hook by the sole of his left sandals and used Crocodile's momentum to slam the hook on the ground. Before Crocodile could even recover, Luffy launched an enlarged fist right through the face of the warlord. As per instinct, Crocodile shifted his body into his logia form and Luffy's fist passed through him. The Straw Hat captain retrieved his extended punching hand and used his other hand to reach for the throat of the warlord. And once again Crocodile was caught by a Haki-infused arm of the Straw Hat captain. This time, the Crocodile used his nun-hook hand to create a sand blade, slashing at the arm that held him by the throat. Luffy released his grip before the blade could drop down through his arm and followed up with a double jet stamp, thus creating some distance between them. "Why do you insist on protecting these people?" Crocodile asked. His eyes were flaring up with anger. "Years of infiltrating the kingdom of Alabasta, acting like the good guy. I only really wanted a moment with Nico Robin, but you got in my way," Luffy replied, shrugging his shoulder. The sand user could not find an opening. Robin decided that she could not trust this new person. But maybe she would listen. "She's working with me. I took care of her and protected her from the world government. You're with me, right, Miss All Sunday?" Crocodile asked, looking at the raven-haired beauty. "I am with you, Mr. Zero," Robin said weakly. The fabric of her morality was being tugged at in so many levels. For one, she is very loyal, especially to the person who has stuck his neck out and protected her from the Marines in the short time that she joined him. But in return she had been deciphering some complicated poneglyph text that Crocodile had stashed. Mostly first-hand accounts of current events, nothing too significant. But this Mugiwara really piqued her interest. The way he looked at her made her feel so vulnerable, as if he was looking past her flesh and looking deep into her soul. Though for now, she had an allegiance to Crocodile, and that was that, she was loyal to a fault. Good, now Mugiwara the lady has spoken? So if you could just go away so I can rule my country. Last time I checked the king was not dead. My Baroque works numbers are out there, they should be dead by now. So, my commanders are out there, your agents should be dead by now. Don't mock me, there is no way my agents lost. Miss All Sunday verify this. Yes way. While the two powerhouse of the Grand Line were arguing, Robin couldn't help but snicker. For one, she only really saw Mr. Zero as a serious guy who always seemed to be in control, but in this instance, Mugiwara was making him more relatable. In an instance, Mr. Zero was becoming vulnerable. Mr. Zero, no crocodile, was indeed human. Mr. Zero. Robin had crossed her arms and created an extra limb outside the battlefield. She took a peek outside at the instruction of her boss. I see that the numbers have lost. What? Crocodile turned so fast at Robin that a whirlwind of sand emitted from his movement. Told you so. Luffy had now started to pick his nails as he was fully confident that this would happen. He didn't know why he did it, he didn't know why, but in an act of desperation Crocodile disappeared into a storm of sand traveling to where Robin stood and took his golden hook and materialized right behind her, with the hook pointing threatening close to her neck. I'm sorry Miss All Sunday but I need a way out, whispered Crocodile, who has finally realized his defeat. Years of planning, years of servitude, and to lose to a straw hat wearing bastard, go figures. Let her go Crocodile. Luffy's voice was low as if to mitigate the anger he was building up from seeing one of his precious people in the grasp of the enemy. It was a warning, one that Robin did not fail to catch. Oline she didn't know it yet, but Robin would soon learn that Luffy cares for her. You will let me leave Alabasta in peace Mugiwara. Then I will let Miss All Sunday go. You have my word. Crocodile had a smirk in his face, finally having control once again. Though what he failed to realize was how much Robin did not want to be held captive. Robin and Luffy looked into each other's eyes as if coming to an understanding and as if the two had known each other for years. A plan that they both agreed on through eye contact was coming through fruition. Robin threw her right leg back, catching Crocodile right in the golden region. Though lucky for the sand user, he made his lower extremities into sand on time before any pain could be inflicted. He cockily smiled at her for missing her chance to escape, but the moment of distraction was enough time for Luffy to bound forward, grab the hook of the sand user and tossed him against the wall with such intense force that the wall began to collapse at impact. Thanks for the distraction. Luffy winked before dashing after Crocodile and not letting him have a breath. Luffy pulled his hands back, stretching it for as long as possible before following through with a painful gum pistol. Crocodile spewed up blood, not even having enough time to change into his sand form. As Luffy got within inches from Crocodile, he grabbed him by his shoulder, pulled him out of the wall, and tossed him upwards. Crocodile floated in the air for only a second, before Luffy followed with his most devastating looking punch since his return back in time. A Gear 3 punch that sent Crocodile through the roof of the palace, with the foundation of the palace finally giving up on the impact. Crocodile went higher and higher until gravity finally brought him back down to earth. He would have fallen on the ground, broken all his back and everything in his body, possibly die, but against his better judgment, Luffy caught him. He caught him and placed him on the ground, his golden hook noticeably missing. Robin just stared at him, confused at his decision. The Baroque Works agents were no more at the fall of Sir Crocodile. The former Mr. 5, Mr. 3 and Mr. 2 have all switched allegiance to the commanders of the Grand Armada. Everyone else was flat on their face or flat on their back, as they were all easily defeated. Miss Merry Christmas could not move. Miss Golden Finger had an arm ripped off. Mr. 1 was bleeding feverishly, and that was the end of that. Meanwhile, Mr. Zero aka Sir Crocodile reflected on his failures, staring at the open ceiling of the palace he wanted so badly to conquer, dejected at the defeat of Mugiwara. Luffy caught her staring, smiled and shrugged his shoulder. Then he extended his hands at the raven-haired beauty. "Hi, I'm Monkey D. Luffy." To which she returned his friendly gesture by shaking his hands. "Nico Robin. Pleasure to meet you. But why do you need to speak with me?" She replied pleasantly with a slight glow in her eyes. His touch was electric and very powerful. Nothing a woman likes more than a poised man. To say she was intrigued would be an understatement. From the tragedy of Ohara, to the isolation of life of a fugitive, to the welcoming assistance of Sir Crocodile, and now finding herself at the company of a very powerful figure. Life's starting to look up. So that was the end of the battles. Was it ever a question? The sun was at its highest point in the sky when Sir Crocodile was utterly and convincingly demolished by the Straw Hats. King Cobra and Princess Vivi were huddled close together at the bunker, and the princess jumped up at the sound of a building collapsing in the distance. "Father, what was that loud noise?" the young girl asked, looking worriedly at her father. "Don't worry about it, dear." King Cobra held his daughter close. It felt like forever, but eventually the noise outside died down. Then silence. For a grueling 5 minutes, nobody knew what was going on. "Father," it became quiet. Princess Vivi whispered. Then a firm knock rang through the bunker, echoing throughout the chamber. Princess Vivi, unlike earlier, decided it was a good idea to go near the entranceway and put herself in the front of the group. "Vivi, come here now," the king commanded, though the princess remained unmoving. "Do not worry, father, I will protect us all," the young girl said confidently. Without a weapon, armed with only her sharp will and resolve, Princess Vivi stood in front of the door ready to face the possible enemies behind the doorway. Before King Cobra could join his daughter, a voice echoed throughout the chamber, though to his relief, it was an ally. "King Cobra, Princess Vivi, can you open the door?" If he wanted to, he could have ripped the door open, but that would not go well with his proposal. "Ah, it's Mr. Farmer." Vivi, despite everyone else's precaution, pressed the doorway release button, one in which opened the chamber. The people within the chamber let out a small yelp, believing that their life was coming to an end. The lights within the Doomsday Bunker were not very bright, so being introduced to the outside sunlight took a moment for the party to adjust. His silhouette was unique, as if he were a giant amongst men. His straw hat was prominent amongst other things, and King Cobra immediately sighed a breath of relief. "Thank you, Princess. All is clear, King Cobra." Once their eyes adjusted, they finally saw him, with that contagious smile, that everyone within the bunker cried in relief. The Straw Hats and the new recruit were all chatting amongst themselves outside the bunker. The former Baroque Works agents were still unmoving, knowing full well where they were all going. "Thank you, Mugiwara." "I did not," King Cobra began. But Luffy held up his hands as if to stop the king from revealing any of his shortcomings. "A king such as yourself is someone one should admire, so King Cobra, I have come for some business. Can I have an audience?" Luffy put the power in the king's hands. He did not want the king to lose face in front of his people. "Mugiwara, once we figure out what to do with the destruction of my land, on second thought, let us have a walk, Mugiwara." King Cobra left the bunker first, grabbing Luffy by the arm, directing him away from the group to have a talk. "I am humbled by your presence," Luffy commented, though once they were in the clear of the group, Luffy gave a non-verbal command for Katakuri to make them a place to talk. Katakuri nodded and understood the command, manifesting a mochi house for the two people to have a private conversation. King Cobra finally showed what he really was feeling. "I did not know that he was plotting against me. I thought that he was my friend," began the king. "As your crew went through my army, and I finally realized that we are not ready for world-threatening powers. I assume you are an emperor of the New World?" "No, not there yet, but I am working towards something more than an emperor. I am working towards becoming the king of the pirates." To this, King Cobra smiled, taking a seat on a well-built wax chair, created by the new member of the Grand Armada. In his mind, Luffy was impressed by how easily they were able to implement Galdino into their ranks. "I see." He paused and looked at his hands. "Mugiwara, I believe that you will reach your goal, but in doing so, what do you look to accomplish?" "With becoming the king of pirates, I wish to obtain the strongest family in the whole world. To end the system that is the celestial dragons, to eliminate the underworld, to control the pirates' action of this world, to unify all the kingdoms, and to ultimately destroy the corruption within the marines. Mugiwara, in order to thank you, I will be able to assist you in one aspect of your goal. The Alabasta Kingdom will raise the Straw Hat Grand Armada flag, pledging our support to you." The two men stared into each other, then they solidified the newfound alliance with an embrace. "Thank you, King. So what is it that you needed to speak with me about?" "Well, that was the gist of it, an extension of my protection of your land. I also wanted to recommend calling the Marines right before you declare your land under my protection in order to take the Baroque Works agents under custody. I see Mugiwara, then I must request something as well. In order to solidify our alliance, you must take my daughter as your bride. I am flattered by King Cobra, but she is too young to be my wife. Plus I am a firm believer in choice, so I don't really do well with arranged marriage. Once she comes of age then, you will consider if she also wishes to be with you. He was stuck, not able to get out of this one. It's an agreement then. I am glad Mugiwara. King Cobra laughed wholeheartedly as the duo exited the structure together. Luffy joined him though not quite agreeing with the plan. One last thing King Cobra. Luffy remembered where he needed to be now. Something he needs to prevent from happening. He was going to meet Joker. Would you happen to have a way to Dressrosa? I have a friendly relationship with the King Riku. I can provide you a log post to Dressrosa. Perfect. Responded Luffy. With the crew. I am Nico Robin. Thank you for having me. Robin had been advised by Luffy to go ahead and introduce herself. I am Katakuri, first commander. Replied Katakuri, as his arms remained crossed, still observing, always observing the surroundings. Mihawk, second commander. Mihawk commented, giving the women a brief smile. You guys are so stiff. The name is Arlong, fourth commander. Then Arlong looked at his partner, who also gave a warm smile. I am Brûlé, so glad that another woman has joined me and Hancock in this group. She gave Robin a quick hug to which she returned. These people were so friendly. Rob Lucci, third commander. You already know our new lackeys, Gem, Galdino and Bentham. Lucci pointed at the former Baroque Works agent that they have recruited into their crew. Gem struck a pose along with Bentham, but Galdino was late on the notice and failed to strike a pose along with the other two. I am Brooke. Let me ask you, dear. May I see your panty? But an elbow met the head skull of the skeleton man as he fell on the floor. He twitched unnaturally on the ground as if going into shock. Don't mind him. I am Boa Hancock, queen. She gave Robin a hug as well. It was so warm and welcoming that Robin closed her eyes and enjoyed the embrace of another person. Welcome to our crew. Hancock knew at the moment she saw her. She was going to be a queen of the king. This was what he was speaking about before. And how did she feel about it? She was strong, independent and amazing in every way possible. But he made her feel so many emotions that she would trust his decision and if need be, share him with others. Thank you, I am glad to be here. Robin replied with a smile. This felt like home more than any place she's ever been before. But she still had to be cautious, as she thought that the Baroque Works were going to be her home for a long time, but he turned out to be a bad guy. She really has a good feeling about this crew. Hopefully her feelings are not wrong. That night, at the insistence of King Cobra, the Straw Hat crew were treated to a feast, in honor of their victory and assistance in liberating Alabasta, along with discovering where Rain was being held back. Though the night was enjoyable, Luffy decided it time to retreat to his designated sleeping quarters. He needed to create a plan for Dressrosa. There was no way in hell he'll let Doflamingo wreak havoc through that land. As he was leaving, he caught the tail end of a conversation between Lucci and Pell. So you're telling me you'll be able to make me stronger? Pell said in disbelief. After the embarrassing defeat of the Alabasta army to the Straw Hats, he wanted to be stronger no matter what. Sure I can, but the thing is, things like these don't just happen in a day. So how about I give you the basics and you're on your own from there? Luffy had gone for the night but the crew was still enjoying the party thrown for them. So who would win in arm wrestling? Instigated Arlong, who was looking between Katakuri and Mihawk. Me of course, it's not even a question, declared Katakuri. Me, pronounced Mihawk. Silence immediately covered the air as both men said this at the same time. Then laughter escaped Katakuri, to which Mihawk joined him. Arlong began to slowly exit the conversation as he steered up some interesting drama between the two powerhouse. He then sat beside Gem, who is his newest crew member. See there, that's how you beat someone who you can't beat yourself. He smiled, happy to create some good-natured rivalry between the first and second commander. I see. Gem took out a notepad, with the cover titled, How to Be Great Like Arlong. He began to feverishly write in the notebook. Galdino, let's go, we have to help Pell become a great warrior. Yes, boss. Little by little, the men and their crew were starting to take its own identity. Lucci's crew wore a suite, and Galdino looked interesting wearing one. Brook was creating an atmosphere as he played a mellow song for the crowd. It took a moment for the people of Alabasta to get used to seeing a skeleton musician. Though overall the party went great, noticeably, Hancock and then Robin disappeared from the party. The very next day, the Straw Hats finally boarded their ship with Luffy standing next to the mast as his crew looked at him from below. The Alabasta Kingdom has taken Luffy's advice and summoned the Marine, who took the Baroque agents into custody. Then as the Marines left, King Cobra commanded the flag of the Straw Hats to be brought to the highest point of Alabasta. It would take months to rebuild their palace, but at least they were all alive. Princess Vivi was relayed the message of becoming one of Luffy's wife once she comes of age, and she couldn't be happier. Pell trained with Lucci the basics of becoming stronger throughout the night, and Lucci was paying for the lack of sleep. So now they were aboard their ship, waiting for their captain's command. I have so many things I need done, that I can't hardly contain myself. Began Luffy. I want to eventually expand our crew to be big enough to conquer the world, and thus I assigned you all your own division. So my friends, eventually, I will have you all transverse into your own adventures where we all rendezvous in time. But for now I ask you to join me in obtaining another land which we can call ours. While in the process, I want you all to obtain people for your crews, as you have began to do so already. So everyone, will you join me in Dressrosa where we will possibly meet our greatest challenge yet? I Captain, I am with you. Katakuri was the first to speak, a man who was stuck behind his mother's shadow. A person who was unable to go on his own adventure, freed to seek his true purpose in life. That was what he owed Captain Luffy. You have my blade, Captain. Mihawk raised his blade. Only one person has drawn with him, and only one has beaten him. Shanks was one person he had drawn, and the captain was the one to beat him. Through the end of time he will be the blade of the king, for this was his purpose. I only want one woman in this world. Otherwise I will help you with whatever you need, Captain. Lucci tipped his hat, adjusting it to his comfort. There was truly one woman he needed to kill, and little by little he's learning more and more about her. After what you've done for my people, I'm with you till I die, Captain, Arlong proclaimed, to which Brûlé gave him a hug. Me too, Captain, I am with you for what you've done for me and my brother. The newest members of the Grand Armada were surprised by the overwhelming loyalty of the crew to their captain. Galdino was brought in for his ability to create wax dummies for training purposes. Bentham forced himself to the crew by challenging Brook at any opportunity. Jem thought it would be fun to learn what he can really do with his devil fruit with the crew. Captain, with what you've done for me, saving me from the loneliness and darkness that was bound to consume me, not to mention Laboon. The whale let out a massive spout at the mention of his name. I'm with you till I become nothing but bones. But I am made of bones, yo-ho-ho-ho. Then it was Hancock who was going to speak up. You're my king and my salvation. I am with you forevermore, through only death will we part. Luffy gave her a loving smile. Though he thought everyone was done with their touching speech, there was one more woman who was unaccounted for. I am new to all this. As you all may or may not know, I am known as the Demon of Ohara. I have a bounty of 80 million on my head as a child. By bringing me along you have brought great danger to your crew. I can't be here as my conscience will destroy me if you all die because of me. She began to tear up, finally letting out her emotions. Everyone had been so nice and welcoming to her, especially Hancock and Luffy, that it was too good to be true. Robin, don't worry about us. We can handle ourselves. Katakuri began giving Robin a thumbs up. We're actually more worried about putting all of you in danger, Mihawk commented. Nobody is dying on my watch. Luffy had the most intense and serious look on his face. He gave her a warm smile that only he could pull off. So Robin, the question is really, will you come with us? It took her a moment to compose herself, wiping the tears from her eyes. These people were very strong, but more importantly they were a tight-knit group which she so desperately wanted to be a part of. Yes, she finally replied with a smile, and Hancock and Brûlé buried her in an embrace. Good, Arlong. Luffy commanded as he tossed the eternal log post to his best navigator. Lead the way to Dressrosa. Aye, Captain. Arlong saluted, pulled his woman, Brûlé, away from the giant group hug and gave her a kiss, before diving into the water and once again riding on the back of Laboon. Let's go, screamed Arlong as he was floating above water. Woohoo! He yelled when Laboon started to follow his instruction through the direction of his harness. "He's so awesome." Brûlé had hearts forming from her eyes. Whereas Katakuri rolled his eyes and assumed the position of the helmsman for the time being. "Alright crew, captain's order, man your stations," yelled Katakuri. The hawk leapt into the crow's nest. Lucci joined Brook in manning the mast. Jem and Bentham were assigned deck-related choirs while Galdino was instructed to do the dishes. While the men were being men, Brûlé, Hancock and Robin were responsible for creating a meal for the crew, and now that they are becoming bigger, an extra hand was a welcomed addition. On to Dressrosa. Luffy commented to himself as he overlooked his crew, working at his command. Dressrosa outskirts, my fellow citizen. It still pains me to this day that my dearest Scarlet has passed on exactly 2 years ago. A muscular gladiator headed the gathering. This man was no mere ordinary warrior. No, this man was the beloved king of Dressrosa, King Riku himself. In the audience, 2 people were dressed with an oversized hood. One was a tall, muscular man. The other was a beautiful woman holding a precious little girl in her hands. They were amongst the citizens, listening in on the wonderful tribute. Please join me in a moment of silence to our princess, who I am sure is happy where she is. King Riku took a quick look at the hooded figure and a massive smile quickly covered his face. Though he immediately composed himself to cover the act. Thank you all for coming out once more, and please enjoy our snacks that we have laid out for you good people, and let us celebrate the life of my daughter, Princess Elizabeth. King Riku could not contain himself anymore and ran to a private area. It was there that the 2 hooded figures finally joined him. My goodness, my precious little thing, you've grown so big, exclaimed King Riku as the hooded woman gave his little daughter to the king. Father, I'm sorry we could not visit any time sooner, it was just getting dangerous, someone is bound to find out. Oh shush dear, all that matters to me is you are all okay. Isn't that right, Rebecca? Who's a cutie? Who's a cutie pie? King Riku was tossing little Rebecca in the air, causing the little one to laugh at her grandfather. Plus you have my strongest warrior with you. I wouldn't trust my daughter with any other man, right Kairos? Yes my king. Kairos took a knee in the presence of King Riku, though the king simply laughed at him. None of that boy. We are family now, call me Doldo, or better yet, call me father. Yes king. I mean Doldo. Attaboy. So listen, I know you have retired from the life of warfare, but something might be coming to our land. King Riku pulled a card from his back pocket, tossing it to Kairos. The card was blank on one side, but the other was the symbol of the Joker. Some bastard has been intercepting our food supplies. Leaving this card in every shipment he manages to interrupt. King Riku then gave his granddaughter a kiss on her forehead before returning her to Kairos, who was too afraid to hold her, so he handed her to Elizabeth instead. Anything you need, come to the palace. Father, I've told you that I don't want you to lose your place. You are doing amazing things for the people. Imagine such power. If people were to learn of my marriage with Kairos, unfortunate as it is, you will be forced out of power. Yada yada, I don't care about power, I only care about my family. Anyway, like I said, anything at all you hear? The couple nodded, and even little Rebecca copied her parents. Good, until next time. King Riku gave them a smile, not knowing what tomorrow would bring. For little did they know, the invasion had finally begun. Among the people of Dressrosa, the Joker has placed his people in strategic positions to overthrow the kingdom and placed it back in his control. As the coming invasion was coming to fruition, military personnel were disappearing left and right, and nobody seems to remember who they were, but why? Though the world was bigger than just our hero, Monkey D. Luffy. Somewhere in the West Blue, Edward Newgate, also known as Whitebeard, has successfully gathered his entire army, from 1st Division Commander Marco the Phoenix to all the way to allies such as Captain Squar. Everyone was there. What they failed to realize was that one person was not with them. One person was biding his time to actually reach the point in which he could obtain his devil fruit. So he had to do something to break up the gathering, to stop the aggression of Whitebeard. My boy, thank you for this. Whitebeard had asked for a drink, and Teach was the first to provide it to him. Whitebeard had not been feeling well lately, ever since the time he left Fishman Island. Of course Pops, call me whenever. Teach immediately went outside, leaving Whitebeard to himself. Marco, called Whitebeard as he grasped his heart, what's our status? Everyone is here, Pops. We're just waiting for your command and we are ready to attack Toto Land. Marco noticed that Whitebeard was not looking well. Pops? Are you okay? Yeah, Marco, don't worry about me. Whitebeard attempted to get up but fell on one knee. Damn it. Pops, exclaimed Marco as he tried to catch his captain. Days passed and Whitebeard's health was increasingly getting worse. Pops, we have to call it off. Marco finally said, as his 3 commanders were within the room. Marco, Jozu, and Thatch. No matter what test I perform on you, your ages is the problem. No, we are so close. We have everyone here already. Pops, we've sent them back. We said something came up. They don't know about your condition. Thatch stated worriedly. Whitebeard was going to lash out in anger but his chest began to feel tight and he fell back on his bed. Maybe it was really his age. Marco and Jozu remained with the captain but Thatch left the room. Though in the shadow of hallway of the hospital ward of the Moby, a smile formed in the face of the culprit on the sudden weakness of the health of Whitebeard. Teach began to walk away hiding a small black bottle with a red skull on it, laughing to himself as his plan went into play. Not yet. No, not quite yet. This was supposed to be Whitebeard's conquest for the One Piece. But one member of his own crew was unknowingly the reason for his sudden decline in health. Teach. Thatch had caught Teach walking outside of the hospital ward. Teach immediately turned around with a smile on his face. You worried too, huh? Well, nothing we can do about it. All we can do is make some magic with our hands. Thatch gave Teach a smile. Yeah. Teach responded and followed Teach to the kitchen of the Moby. Not yet. No, not quite yet. Zihahahaha. Due to the breakup of the gathering of the Alliance, the Sun Pirates were forced to return to their homeland. Captain Luffy. Come in. To no answer. Jinbei had been trying to get in contact with Luffy to let him know of the events. Any luck? Fisher Tiger and Aladdin were sitting around Jinbei, who were both as confused on why the attack had been called off. No, Captain. Jinbei dropped the golden snail and looked around the room. Well, it's alright really, at least now we can help Queen Otahime get more signatures for her dream, stated Aladdin with a smile on his face. That is true, though Whitebeard is still making me worried, began Jinbei, though Fisher Tiger grabbed him by his shoulder as if to ease his worries. That man is going to be fine, he is an emperor. A title only given to 3 people of our time. Aladdin was listening in on Fisher Tiger's speech, but he grabbed the newspaper of the day and began reading it. There's also Big Mom and Kaido and you don't get that title by being just good. That is true, but Jinbei was going to say something though Aladdin let out a loud audible. Captain. Fore. Spit it out, Aladdin. What are you talking about? Fisher Tiger pulled up the paper and read the headline as he let out a shocked expression. Red-haired Shanks has become the 4th emperor. In Mary Joie's. I'm glad we've come to an understanding. Red-haired. You know too much but you do not pose a threat to us. So we'll let you live. But this can change any time. There were 5 powerful figures in that room and it's not just strength. Political prowess, world knowledge, overwhelming influence. This was all of them. Sure. Responded the one and only red-haired. When he said he needed to take care of something important, meeting with the Gorosei was not what anyone would expect. Leave now or we'll really kill you this time. And to that Shanks left the room. As per their agreement he was alone in the land of the enemy. And he had a long walk back to his crew. As Shanks left the room the 5 elders immediately addressed the most immediate concern of the group. He is too influential, powerful. We have to declare him a Yonko. This way Newgate, Kaido or Linlin can take care of him. Agreed. Chorused the rest of the group. It took 20 minutes before someone noticed him. A very powerful man, in fact. An admiral recently promoted to his post by the result of the promotion of former Admiral Sengoku. Red-haired. The room suddenly got cold and Shanks stopped in his footsteps. Vice Admiral Kuzan. Greeted Shanks with the same tone. Admiral Iokiji to you, pirate. People in the surveillance room had been watching the entire exchange through some visual den mushi. Though suddenly their feed got interrupted as all they could see was an empty screen. 5 seconds. Kuzan walked beside Shanks and whispered. He's not supposed to be here yet, take care of it. Okay. Kuzan immediately deactivated his abilities, returning everything to normal. Then as quickly as the feed was gone, It was back on, with Shanks and Kuzan walking by each other. Their earlier exchange seemed to be nothing but words. Both men seemed to have come to an understanding, but what about aboard the Straw Hat Grand Armada ship? To traverse the globe from Alabasta to Dressrosa, the crew took a very long time in going through the Grand Line to get to where they needed to go. What should have been a comfortable 2-month journey turned into almost a year. And precious time was used to build some relationship, strength, and crew bonding. As time ticked, Luffy was becoming more and more concerned. Not for himself, but for the kingdom of Dressrosa. Based on his understanding from his timeline, the beginning of this year was when Mingo did the things he did to Dressrosa. But this time there was a difference. This time he wasn't going to just let him take what he wanted. This time he was going to stop Mingo before he took Dressrosa into his control. Not this time Joker. Mingo knows who he is, after breaking down the auction house in Sabaody and messing up his slaving business. Otherwise, not a day has gone wasted for the crew though. On the first 2 months of their travel, Robin and Hancock had been gossiping about Luffy as Robin was curious about him. He wasn't forcing anything between them. He just treated her like a person, and that was such a refreshing feeling. Everyone else in the crew treated her with such respect that she couldn't have been happier to be part of this group. "So what makes you like him so much?" Robin asked as they were helping each other with nail polish. "No girl. The question is what is not to like." Hancock stopped painting Robin's nail to give her some information about Luffy. "He is gentle but strong, loving but hot-blooded, strong but caring. He is everything you would want in a man, and he gives you the feeling that he will protect you until the day he dies. He has a way of making you feel a certain way. Especially the most amazing experience that words cannot really describe." "Oh my, what is it? I don't want to tell you. Maybe he'll make you feel it one day?" Emphasis on the feel. Just the thought of it made her shiver. "Just tell me, Hancock." She began to playfully hit her in the arm to get an answer. To which Hancock caught her hand and looked her directly in the eyes, squinting her eyes. "Are you sure?" she replied, half serious but mostly messing around as well. "Yes, girl, just tell me." Robin replied with a smile on her face. Hancock looked left, then right. Then she slowly approached Robin's ears before revealing the truth. The best part of being with Luffy. He has a massive, though their interaction was interrupted by the arrival of said man. "Hey girls, sorry to interrupt." Luffy began with a blush on his face. Seeing Hancock and Robin so close made him feel some type of way. "But dinner is ready." "Sure babe, be there in a few," announced Hancock, to which Luffy came by to give his lady a hug. And a brief but sweet smile to Robin, before exiting the room. She then cleared her throat, wanting to know what she would say before getting interrupted. "Well, you were saying?" Hancock once again lowered her voice and looked at her with a twinkle in her eyes. "Oh well. Luffy has a massive." Dude acted like a pretentious bag. Galdino was sharing a story about his time with Baroque Works and how his path crossed theirs. They were now all in the cafeteria with Hancock and Robin joining last. Bentham and Brooke had been assigned patrol that night, as it was two people's job during the meal to watch the perimeter. And the group rotated, including the captain. "Wow, he really did that, huh?" asked Brûlé, who was eating a piece of chicken wing. Arlong grabbed a napkin and wiped some sauce that was on the corner of her mouth. To which she rewarded him with a smile. "Yeah, Mr. Zero was the biggest douche of them all. He thought we were all disposable unless we were strong. I mean, my partner was on her first day on the job when Arlong came in with Laboon and knocked her out. So was Jem's partner," Galdino stated. To which had Jem perked up to add some more info to this. "I only knew her by her agent name, but Miss Valentine was an idiot. More like someone who knew how to use a gun and had a little bit of aim. Probably a Marine dropout. But she was not very bright." Jem scratched his head as he spoke. Then Galdino also had a comment about his former partner. "My partner was definitely an idiot for freezing up from the whale. I feel like Mr. Zero just looked at people and gave them ranks. I mean, I feel like I could beat Mr. Zero," Galdino said confidently. As they were conversing, Luffy suddenly formed a smile in his face. One in which indicated he knew something that no one else knew. Hancock looked at Luffy and held his hands. "What is it, babe?" To her touch, Luffy looked at her and just pointed at the door. "Look over there, he's finally here." She looked at him funny but immediately understood what he meant. For ever since their time in Alabasta and their travel to Dressrosa, a certain stowaway got on board their ship and has been hiding and recuperating. She then smiled but switched her grasp to Robin, who now had a confused look in her face. "What's going on?" Robin asked but immediately dropped her fork, shocked at the man she saw on the doorway. "Shut your mouth, Galdino." A battered but otherwise well-rested former organization leader walked into the dining area of the ship. Everyone immediately became tense. Everyone but Luffy, Hancock, Mihawk, and Katakuri. All four were proficient in observation Haki. Coincidence that they were the only one who knew? I think not. Mr. Zero, what the hell are you doing here? You were on your way to impel down." Galdino trembled as he was talking so much crap when he didn't know the man was here. "Hey Mihawk, do something, that crocodile guy is here." Arlong whispered to his friend who sat on his left. "Nah," was all he responded before continuing on eating his food. Then Arlong leaned forward to Katakuri and made the same request. "Hey Katakuri, do something, Sand guy is here." He tried to keep his voice as low as possible but Crocodile looked directly at him. "Listen here, Sword Nose, all you assholes would have been dead if it wasn't for these four." Crocodile pointed at Luffy, who was happily eating his food. Hancock, who was also eating. Mihawk, who sat beside Arlong, and Katakuri, who sat in front of him. "Wait, you guys knew?" Jem explained, joining Galdino in an embrace as they both trembled in fear of their former employer. "Yeah, no big deal, it's just Croco." Luffy shrugged it off, but to others, it was a big deal. "Nothing to worry about, Robin, he won't do anything to you, not on my watch." "What about us?" Galdino and Jem said at the same time as tears began to comically well up from their eyes like a fountain. "I have your back." Lucci commented, though a bit disappointed in himself for not being able to mark out that Croco fucking Delay was on board. "I made a deal with your captain." Crocodile began as he made his way to a bench, plopping down as it took a lot out of him to get up to the dining area. He was definitely not 100% recovered from his beatdown from Luffy. "As much as I hated Mugiwara, I hate that smug former celestial bastard even more." After Luffy found him on that first day, Luffy provided him with some items to help him heal sooner. Mugiwara didn't say anything, just continued to come back and give him some food, water, blankets, even clean clothes. This went on for months until finally, Luffy wasn't able to find him. Then he knew that it was a matter of time before he popped up. Katakuri and Mihawk sensed him on board, but knew well enough to not bother him if the captain already knew he was there. Hancock was going to protest, but she thought about it and she knew Luffy wouldn't put them in danger. He then revealed his golden hook, which caused Galdino and Jem to pass out. "What?" He stabbed an apple with his hook and began eating it. The rest of the meal returned back to normal with laughter and jokes. Eventually Jem and Galdino got up, embarrassed from passing out. "Alright guys, I'll be catching some air." Luffy gave Hancock a kiss before exiting the dining room. It was Sane Sand User followed him. He still had a suspicious look in his face, despite helping him basically get better. "Croco, what's up?" Luffy looked at the distance, enjoying the moonlight and the gentle breeze of the sea. "Why'd you do it? Why'd you help me? Why didn't you kill me when you had the chance?" Whoa, so many questions. "Well, first of all, I helped you because you were injured. What more reason do I need? I didn't kill you because I feel as if you can be redeemed. Was I right, Croco?" "Tisk. The things that I have done to become king of Alabasta. That's not redeemable, Mugiwara." Crocodile took a seat at a barrel while Luffy leaned against the railing of the ship. "What did you do exactly? In this timeline, there's no way he could have done the things he did when he was 10 years in on the operation." "Well, I did everything that Cobra said, just that I had the goal to eventually overthrow his kingdom and take over. Eventually get my hands on Pluton with the help of Robin, possibly aim to destroy the Holy Kingdom and say good riddance to those celestial dragon bastards." "So what? Big whoop, you wanted to be king. If I didn't come along I would have found a way to stop you eventually, just how the universe works." Luffy was confident in this. He defeated Crocodile, the Sand Logia Warlong extraordinaire, when he was 17 years old back in his timeline, without Haki. Beat that. "So what then after Dressrosa?" Crocodile asked as he picked his teeth with his hook. "Join my armada, become one of my commanders." There was a pause, as wind passed through the duo. The offer was definitely calculated. From the time they met, to the time he stowed away, Luffy already had a plan for this, and Crocodile fell into his hands. And so he laughed, grasping his forehead. Sure, but the first chance you drop your guard, I'll kill you, and I ain't calling you captain. You just did. Fuck, ain't happening again. Meanwhile, Bentham and Brook looked at each other as the whole interaction between Luffy and Crocodile took place, confused on what to do. As soon as they both came into agreement and retreated to their sleeping quarters, the two people on patrol shrugged their shoulders and returned to their assignment, still unsure what the hell Crocodile was doing on board. They will know later, that's for sure. After their conversation, Luffy made his way to his sleeping quarter. It was there where he found Robin leaning against his bedroom door. Hi Robin. Damn, she was pretty. Now, then, forever, Robin looked amazing. Hey Captain. I just want to let you know that I trust you. You know, with the whole Crocodile situation. Of course she had been listening. He should have expected that. Her ability was really something else. I wouldn't make any decision that put our crew in jeopardy. Well, I mean, we're going to Dressrosa, but that's out of necessity. Of course, Captain. Well, have a good night. He felt like she wanted something else. Like she was waiting for him to do something. He ignored the thought and let Robin pass as he prepared to enter his room. Though he felt soft hands grab hold of the back of his arms. He slowly turned and found himself encompassed in a gentle, yet sweet kiss with Nico Robin. It lasted for a few moments, and both people cherished each and every second of it. But alas, the kiss broke, to which Robin was blushing heavily. She never did that before, and it felt so right doing it with Luffy. As they parted their lips, they looked into each other's eyes. Luffy had a confused yet gleeful look on his face. Robin with an excited, yearning look about her. They were silent for some time, just looking at one another, not one saying something in anticipation of the other. But Robin, oh, she was good. Well, good night, Captain, she said in the cutest, most sensual way possible after stealing another quick peck on the lips of Luffy. And he froze in his spot, his heart fluttering at the exchange. He then entered the room to reveal Hancock, who was reading a book in their bed. Hey babe. Hey, so Robin just kissed me. Hancock jumped up at this revelation and kissed him as well. She genuinely looked happy. Yes. Now when can we have her join us? Luffy liked the enthusiasm, but she has become hungry. And he was ready to feed her in every way she wanted it. When time together aboard their ship turned into months, then a year, they had to stop constantly on what port they could find, and buy as much supplies as they could. And as was back to traveling once more. Lucci in particular was picking everyone's brains. Being the youngest commander so far, he was really serious in obtaining as much as he could with his crew members. Lucci and Katakuri had been having a friendly spar, where Lucci would lose every single time, then he would move on to spar with Bentham, who was an expert in hand-to-hand combat. Brook had been practicing with Mihawk, as they were both proficient with their blades. Hancock had been teaching Robin some of her kicking technique, in case she would need to engage in close combat. But her ability is particularly useful in espionage and eliminating multiple targets. Everyone else was training, sleeping, and work. The two ladies have been spending some time together as noticed by Luffy. In fact, he was starting to feel a little left out, as the two would often go on their own mini-trip together and would just talk about random things. Oh well, he was glad they were getting along well. While they were busy bonding, Luffy had been giving his men little advice here and there to improve themselves. On one of their traveling days, the captain and his first commander were having a friendly spar. Katakuri has already reached the highest point of his mochi ability. In fact, he was so close he can certainly, you should awaken your ability, stated Luffy as he stretched after a good sparring match with Katakuri. What is this awakening you speak of, Captain? Katakuri was so close to it and yet he didn't know it yet. Oh well, he was 10 years younger than where he was before. It is where you influence your environment with your devil fruit ability. Like so. Suddenly, everyone who was doing something stopped. Mihawk looked down from his crow's nest in order to see what this awakening was. Arlong jumped out of the back of Laboon and landed on the deck, also curious at what awakening was. The rest of the crew followed suit and Luffy was glad to show them what his awakening was. Robin took notice of her new best friend, Hancock, who took a grip of her hand. She was so invested in him that Robin couldn't help but emulate her, especially after that kiss with him. Here it comes, commented Brûlé as she joined the other ladies. Luffy began to steam from his body, his skin turning into a pink color. He then placed his hands on the deck of the ship, seemingly cutting the air with his focus. Jem tensed up as he stood beside Brook watching every movement of the future king. Bentham and Lucci had been sparring but held off on it in order to watch. Crocodile stopped brooding to look over on what Luffy was doing now. Awakening, huh? The deck of the ship was bigger than anyone needed, so there were plenty of quadrants to train and do whatever the hell they needed. So there he was, now placing his fist on the deck of the ship. And if you asked anyone present, for a split second, just a moment, everyone felt like they were going to bounce off the floor and into the air. But then it was back to normal again. Sorry, that's all I got. Luffy had the most serious look in his face as he looked at his crew members. They all deadpanned into the ground. What the heck? Captain got our hopes up and everything, exclaimed Arlong, although he meant it as a good-natured rib. Mihawk smiled to himself and returned to overlooking the area through the crow's nest. This has been his primary post as he enjoyed the open air and time away from everyone else. He was a lone soul after all, but though he would not admit it, enjoyed everyone's company. Everyone had a good laugh about it, especially Luffy, who was glad to end his shenanigans. It was just a matter of time before they would reach Dressrosa, and a matter of time before they put an end to Joker. Time has flown by since Luffy arrived in place of his younger self. In this time, Luffy was able to create a powerful crew, consisted of Dogtooth, Katakuri, the second eldest of the crew at the age of 38 who dropped his last name in spite of his mother. Dracule, Hawkeye, Mihawk, the third eldest at the age of 33. Brook, the skeleton man at the solid age of 80, Arlong, the Saw, 31 years of age, former human hater now lover. Brûlé, 33 years of age, who also dropped her last name in spite of her mother and also dating a certain fishman. Rob Lucci, the youngster who is 20 years old, hungry to learn from the veterans of the crew, but more importantly revenge. Galdino, 25 years of age, who was used to spawn training dummies for the crew to train, and he was happy to comply as long as it wasn't him getting beaten up. Bentham, at age 22, who has yet to defeat Brook in battle, so therefore is staying with the crew till then. Jem, the baby of the group, no wonder he flicks his boogers with his ability, at the age of 16. Their massive beast of a whale named Laboon, age 43. Their newest recruit, Crocodile, 30 years of age, possibly gunning for Luffy's head. Though more importantly his queens Hancock and Robin, both of which are 20 years of age. The crew now had a solid year of bonding, and they were stronger than when they first got together. Dressrosa, Viola, please finish your vegetables. King Riku had been eating his food. After all, a healthy meal makes a strong king. Father, I am 19 years old and I can eat what I want, protested the princess, to which Monet, the servant, interjected. Isn't that right, Monet? The one who was serving them food was a green-haired beauty, wearing a black dress in order to look professional in her job. Why, of course, my princess. She then gave Viola a wink as she removed the vegetables from her plate when King Riku wasn't looking. Fine, I ate it. You happy, father? Viola exclaimed, to which King Riku gave her an approving thumbs up. Good, may I be excused? To which he father nodded, and Princess Viola left the dining hall and marched to her room. My king, may I be excused? Monet asked, taking a knee in front of the king. Of course, Monet, please snap her to her senses. I don't know anything about teenagers these days and I'm glad you've joined my staff. I am just glad you helped me get off the streets, my king. Be on your way then. King Riku dismissed her and she made her way to comfort Viola. Monet took a courteous bow, but as soon as she left the room, and nobody was watching, her entire mannerism took a whole new form. It was as if a new person took over her body and she became more confident in herself. She then took a detour to one of the empty rooms and pulled out a Den Den Mushi, one of which had the face of Joker. Joker. Monet, how are things in the castle? It's all right, when will it begin? Fuff, what will you say if I said now? Good. To this Monet formed a smile, though she felt someone had been watching her and she heard noises from outside the room. Monet opened the door and revealed Princess Viola, who had been listening in on her entire conversation. Ah, hi Monet, I was just looking for you, I didn't know you were in there. Is that right, princess? Monet grabbed her own green hair and tied it into a bun. Suddenly the entire room became colder as powder snow began to blow out of Monet's body and into the room. Help! She had one good scream in before Monet bounded her. No, my sweet, I need you to watch everything. Monet brought Viola into the front of the gate. Not a single guard was able to stop her, for not a single one of them knew she was a logia. Please, reconsider this mutiny. Viola begged, but to no avail. Monet simply smiled at the princess and opened the door to the palace. It was bright and blinding, but Viola was finally able to make out the people standing outside the castle. "Have at it, boys," claimed Monet as Doflamingo went to embrace her. Viola thought this was her opportunity as she began running. Though she hit a person in her attempt to escape. He wore dark shades and a well-trimmed goatee. "Not today, princess," commented Doflamingo as he put his arms around Monet before starting his invasion of the kingdom of Dressrosa. King Riku and his royal guards were ready for war. They all had their weapon drawn when the intruders entered the throne room. Though before any of his men could move, they were all suddenly killing each other, as if they were being controlled by something, or someone. What the hell is the meaning of this? King Riku was able to see thread-like substance controlling his men, so in one swipe, he cut the strings that were attached to them. Dangerous, to be able to see my strings. Doflamingo tilted his head to the fighting king. He respected the tenacity, and he was a respectable warrior. Though the king was massively outnumbered, as Doflamingo had his entire family there with him. Trebol, Diamante, Pica, Virgo, Giola, Lauji, Senor Pink, Macvis, Gladius, Buffalo, Sugar and Monet. The main powerhouses of his family. The king was by himself with his men defeated, but he was going out with a fight. King. Doflamingo wagged his finger and Monet brought Viola forward. "If you resist, she dies." The king immediately dropped his sword. "Not my daughter, take me, Don Quixote." Yes, now we're coming to an understanding. Listen here, Riku, these lands belong to my family. The Don Quixote family have owned these lands since the beginning of time, so I want it back. Fine, take it. Just don't get my daughter involved. Tisk tisk Riku, that's too easy. I don't want the land, I want money. Let's say we're even at 10 billion berry. Is this some kind of game, Don Quixote? Just then, Doflamingo decided to plop himself down on the throne. Go on then, I'll be off your back as soon as you give me my 10 billion berry. Damn you, Doflamingo. It was to this that King Riku embraced his daughter before going out to his people, begging them for as much as they could spare. Any chance we'll really leave if he somehow comes up with 10 billion berry? Asked Pica in his unusually high-pitched voice. No, and to this the room laughed and Viola could only cry in silence, here surrounded by her enemies. A day passed and King Riku was able to return with the money that Doflamingo asked for. He looked tired from going around all day, but Doflamingo did not care one bit. For your reward, Riku, I will have you make a fool of yourself. In fact, you can go now. Doflamingo flicked his finger and King Riku suddenly lost control of himself. Get away from me, please. He began to swing his sword randomly, nearly killing his own daughter with a swing of his sword. The action, even if it wasn't his own, made him tear up as he really wasn't in control of himself any longer. Though as all hope seemed to be lost, his most precious son-in-law arrived into the scene, anger flaring from his eyes. Kairos. Thank the gods. But even his arrival was null, as Doflamingo was able to subdue Kairos and chain him against the wall, with no option of escape. No matter how hard he tried, he pulled, he could not break the chains. King Riku now went on a rampage, with the control of Doflamingo. Dressrosa outskirt. I think it's time to become heroes, boys. Doflamingo proclaimed as he stood on the outskirts of the city of Dressrosa. It was him, Diamante, Trebol, and Pica. Finally, exclaimed Pica in his unusually high-pitched voice. Duffy, this is what we worked for so long. Trebol was bouncing on his snot as he slid along with the group. Ew, Trebol, you're getting your snot on me. Diamante was trying to toss the snot away from him. Though something unexpected happened. From out of nowhere, King Riku stopped his controlled terror. He fell on both knees and cried his eyes out. Doflamingo had a confused look on his face, especially now that there was someone stand-alone man who had a smirk across his face. As the dust cleared, Doflamingo was finally able to recognize him. A man wearing a straw hat, and with as much disdain in his voice as he could possibly muster, Doflamingo said, Mugiwara. Mingo, I can't let you get through. Luffy stood before the 4 members of the Don Quixote family. "Take care of it," Doflamingo said to his men as Trable launched himself forward, molting his body into snot, though Luffy simply clapped his hands together to blow the excess snot away from Trable's real body. He was now a skinny man with a giant head. And Luffy sent him far behind from where Doflamingo stood. "Ah!" screamed Trable as he immediately retracted his slim to protect himself. Though he didn't feel right, he felt a bit like something mixed in with his snot. "What is this?" "Hello, gross snot monster. The name is Crocodile, and I'm gonna kill you." Crocodile, the newest addition to the Straw Hat Grand Armada, took on his first major opponent assignment. Meanwhile, Pika attempted to follow Trable by jumping up with his massive sword and attempting to cut down the Straw Hat captain. Though Luffy deflected the strike with his arm, caught Pika by his face and tossed him to his right. Mind you, Luffy has yet to move a step. Pika finally stopped flying, slowing getting up. He found that Mugiwara has thrown him really far. "Move and I'll cut you to pieces." The Hawk was the one to be assigned to deal with the stone bastard. And last to attempt to attack Luffy was Diamante, and Luffy hated this man particularly as much as he hated Doflamingo. He attempted to turn himself into a flag, but Luffy caught him mid-transformation with a kick in the guts, before grabbing him by the collar of his shirt and tossing him far, really far. Diamante softened his landing by turning himself into a flag, though the floor suddenly became raised and he smacked against a hard candy-like substance. "Mochi? Captain particularly wanted you to suffer. I can't disappoint him." The one to deal with Diamante was Katakuri. "Sure you will, Dogtooth." Diamante whipped out his blade from his pocket. Then it was back to Luffy and Doflamingo. "You can't beat me, Mugiwara. I've heard it before. I have a fucking army. Where Mingo?" Luffy mocked him by placing his hands over his eyes and looked around. "That's what I thought. Your whole operation has failed today actually. My bad for being late because it should have ended much sooner." "What do you mean you should have gotten here sooner? You got a mole on me? I got people everywhere." "Not anymore. The fuck does that mean? Call them Mingo." Luffy took a seat on the stone floor, waiting for Doflamingo to make the call. Which he did, and after the call, he was angry. "What they say, Mingo? Komi and Mingo." Luffy was playing with him now, for his armada has spread out their forces. Brook has intercepted Lao G. Hancock is in a face-to-face standoff with Monet. Brûlé was assigned to keeping Sugar in her mirror world. Eliminate her as a factor in this war. Lucci stopped Virgo from getting on his ship to return to his undercover work with the Marines. Gem faced against Gladius, may the better explosion win. Robin has stopped Giola from getting into her position. Arlong has met a powerful but respectable new adversary, Senor Pink. Bentham decided to beat the most disgusting-looking one, but he was strong. Buffalo was strong, he could tell. This left Galdino against Macvis, which he was scared shitless since this was his first ever New World opponent. Laboon was assigned with destroying any Don Quixote ships from leaving the port. Mingo, what's wrong? Cat got your tongue? Don Island. Well, I'm off now. A young and energetic teenager looked onto the horizon, visualizing his future adventures. Okay then, bye Squirt. A massive elderly gentleman wearing a Hawaiian shirt, dark sunglasses, began to walk away. Old man, exclaimed the young, dark-haired teenager who was ready to set out on his journey. Fine, fine. Okay then Ace, you need to make sure you always follow your heart and your guts. The old man patted his own stomach. Speaking off, I'm hungry, so go ahead and go Squirt. If you're not a Marine then I don't care where you are going. Though the old man was having a waterworks show behind his dark sunglasses. For the past 2 years the massive, muscular man had been training Ace when he could. He was also training another boy, but he seemed to have not made it. Then go old man, I don't need you. He looked towards the horizon once again, this time taking a deep breath and jumping into his small dingy. I'm going now old man. I promised brother Luffy that I'll meet him again in the new world. And I also promised brother Sabo that I'll carry on his memory. Especially after his death. A few seconds passed before Ace replaced his sad expression with a smile. Alright then old man, thank you for your help in training me. He raised his fist in the air, to which the old man returned with a fist to the air of his own. Damn kid. Be safe out there damn it, and if you ever think of doing something stupid remember my fist of love. The old man yelled, to which Ace gave him a thumbs up. It was time for his adventure. What fancy adventures can he experience? People he will meet, people he will defeat. The muscular older man removed his glasses and wiped the tears that escaped his eyes. There goes the son of the Pirate King, following in his father's footsteps. But he could not hold it against him for being born as Roger's son. No, that would be wrong. Instead, he will let him live his life to the fullest, and if their path intercepts again, well, he hopes it does not need to come to that. Beside him, Deiden was teary-eyed, glad and sad that Ace was finally leaving her nest. She had been a mother to him for the past few years, and the loss of Sabo hit them specially hard. Regardless, the boy was now gone, seeking his own adventure. "You getting soft there, Deiden?" "No, just have dust in my eyes," Deiden responded. A transponder snail was ringing for Garp, to which Deiden decided it was time for her to return to her mountains. "See you around, Garp." She then left him to himself, answering the call from headquarters. "Vice Admiral Garp, do you copy?" A call was coming in for him. It shouldn't be, he was on vacation. "What? I'm off the clock, damn it," exclaimed the Vice Admiral. "I'm on vacation, you fool." "Sorry, Vice Admiral, but this is urgent." The Marine officer went over the details, and in fact, it was urgent. "Oh fuck. I'm on my way, if I can make it on time." Somewhere in the New World, I'm glad that Whitebeard decided to back off his advances. That would not have been good for the world, but if he clashed with Big Mom, that would be a sight to see. A man with dark shades was using his finger as a gun, shooting light bullets from it. Commented his partner, who happened to be the newly promoted admiral. "Admiral Ao, Ki, G, why do you do me so?" The man looked away from his mission in front of him. "Commodore Kizaru, let me remind you why we are here today." The admiral continued to let his men do the work, for he was not yet necessary for this mission until he showed up. "Oh, damn Admiral, you don't have to remind me of my demotions? If it wasn't for Mu, Gi, Wa, Ra, I wouldn't be put in this situation. I mean, I was supposed to be admiral by now, but instead I was demoted straight down to petty officer, and I had to work my way back up." Another finger gun was fired and another massive explosion occurred in the distance. He was right, having Admiral Aokiji, Vice Admiral Momonga, Commodore Kizaru, and more than 1,000 Marine officers. Who were they facing exactly? The admiral took a deep breath and stood up. The main show was finally beginning. "Here she comes." Admiral Aokiji had ordered Commodore Kizaru to destroy some island rocks in order to block a path for the incoming danger. Mugiwara, an enraged Yonko of the Four Seas, was quickly making her way to them. She rode a massive thundercloud, wielded an enormous flame in one hand, and a sharp blade on the other. "I'm going to find you and murder you." 2 years have passed since Luffy invaded Totoland, kidnapped Brûlé, and ended up escaping with Katakuri and Brûlé. She had been looking for a lead for him to no avail, until now. Mugiwara was in Dressrosa and she was out for his blood. She was going to kill him. Though the Marines didn't need that kind of catastrophic event to occur. In the event that Big Mom breaches their formation, then that would not be good for the world. Luckily, they had Admiral Aokiji to literally cool her down. He jumped up in the air and held his hands forward. Ice wall, he began to emit cold air from his palm, and suddenly, a massive wall emerged. It took the admiral some time to manifest the wall, and yet that would not be enough to contain the Yonko. Slow her down, maybe, but just for a second. She's by herself. Vice Admiral Momoga was looking in a binocular to follow the Emperor as she approached. "Men, fire all you got if a breach occurs in the wall. It's not gonna hold, but I can help slow her down." Commodore Kizaru disintegrated and shot himself in the sky. Suddenly the flash of light switched directions and came crashing down, aimed towards the Emperor. Light shower. Vice Admiral Momoga continued to view Big Mom through the lens but found that she had disappeared. Then a loud crash through the ice wall. Giant chunks of the ice wall came crashing down on their men, so Admiral Aokiji caused his ice to melt into water once more. The officers who feared for their life suddenly found themselves drenched in water. Their guns would not fire due to fear of Big Mom and circumstances of getting their gunpowder drenched. "Marines, get out of my way. My quarrel is not with you today." Her voice was low and threatening. She stopped mid-rampage, which meant she cared about someone's opinion. She was ablaze as she had a frantic look about her. Big Mom, if you oppose us today, then you will be entering Kaido's territory. I suggest you reconsider. Admiral Aokiji spoke up. Meanwhile, the thousands of marine officers trembled at the sight of the Emperor. Her mere presence made them weak, almost at the point of collapse. Is that so? But Big Mom was not changing her mind. Fuck Kaido, let him come. But my anger is with Mugiwara. Then you'll also have to deal with this on top. Then Admiral Aokiji brought out a massive plate. It was covered with a lid that hid its content. If I can't convince you through regular means, how about some top quality cuisine? I do like food. Big Mom removed the lid and crushed it in her hands. The content was a massive flan, made from the finest West Blue brown sugar and the best milk from the cows of the North Blue. She took a bit out of the flan and then another, and another. Until finally she ate the whole thing. Her frown was replaced by a satisfied smile. This changes nothing, Marines. Big Mom readied her blade, as her homies collectively laughed joyously at the massacre that would occur that day. So be it. The Marines were absolute justice, and they would not let a pirate push them around. Admiral Aokiji drew his ice blade. So did Vice Admiral Momonga with his regular steel blade. Commodore Kizaru also drew a light blade, and the thousands of marine officers aimed with their guns, finally able to reload with some dry gunpowder. If it's a war you want, then it's a war you get. Come then, Marines, stop me if you can, Baltago. Dodge this, you little shit. Hack had been polishing the skills of your Sabo. It had been a year since he was rescued from the open sea, nearly dying from the explosion caused by a world noble. Haha, Hack. Sabo ducked swiftly and grabbed Hack's legs, before throwing him overhead and slamming him on the ground. Damn brat, you got me again. Hack got up slowly, caring for the bump on his head. It had only been a year, yet Sabo was quickly learning their unique styles. He was good, really good. Alright, who's next? Sabo looked around to find a tall man step forward. He had a Bible on his hands and a calm look about him. Kuma-san. I'm honored. Sabo got into formation, covered his hands in Haki as this fight was more serious than any of his previous sparring matches, and launched himself forward. Though Bartholomew Kuma was no pushover, swiping his paw at just the right time to teleport Sabo into the sky above him. Sabo blinked several times before falling straight down. A fit of laughter filled the remote island as the other recruits laughed at Sabo's expense. He fell flat on his face, though he immediately got up to thank Kuma in showing him something what he was lacking. Despite the brief encounter, Sabo learned so much from the ever-silent warlord. Sabo looked up in the sky for a moment. Flashes of his past life hunted him, but nothing seems to unlock his mind. Who was he before? Sabo, let's continue. Hack announced as he once again took his stance. Aye sir, Sabo responded with a confident smile. One day he'll learn who he was, one day. Fishman Island. Good luck, mother. Prince Fukaboshi was in charge of security for his mother. He prepared his mother for the biggest speech of her campaign. Thank you, my son, don't overwork yourself. She caressed the cheek of her son and smiled at him. He had grown to be such a fine young man, taking after his father. Well, here I go. You got this, mother, I'll be here after your speech. She responded with a smile towards him before commencing with her speech. This marks a new day for all Fishman and Merfolks alike. I have obtained the majority signature of the citizens of Fishman Island to finally join the humans in the surface world. Please, if you have any questions, come forward. Queen Otahime has been busy gathering signatures ever since Monkey D. Luffy set foot in her land. And with the help of her family, she was able to obtain almost all the citizens of her kingdom. Those who opposed signing the dough were similar to Fisher Tiger in holding onto deep-rooted hatred towards the surface world. An elderly fishman stepped forward, trembling at each step that he took. My queen, I have been a citizen of this land for hundreds of years and I am nearing my time. We elderly folks are not ready for a change, so in the event that this goes through, will we be forced to relocate? One of Queen Otahime's boys, Prince Manboshi, immediately brought the elderly fishman a chair to sit on. The elderly gentleman gave the prince an approving smile before awaiting the queen's response. I thank you for your questions, kind sir, and to answer your question, we are not forcing anyone to relocate. Everyone has the freedom of choice, and Fishman Island is still our home, so we will only bring those who wish to join us in our move to the surface. But keep in mind that I still need to bring our request to the Holy Land, and it still needs to be approved by the world government. Though with everyone's overwhelming support, this move will pass. Thank you for your question, kind sir." The elderly gentleman was satisfied with his question and allowed another person to ask a question. A younger, beautiful mermaid approached the podium to ask her question. "Queen Otahime, what if we go to the surface and we are mocked and ridiculed for our appearance? For being ourselves?" Tears began to well up on the young mermaid's face, and another one of her sons, Prince Ryuboshi, provided the young mermaid with a cloth for her tears. "I understand your concerns and this has been considered." She paused for a moment and looked over the crowd, then to her husband who gave her an approving nod. King Neptune has been so supportive throughout all of this that she couldn't help but let the confidence fill her soul. "I will be honest with you, it will be hard at first. These worldviews cannot be erased overnight. Hate is something that is filtered out throughout time. If they remain the aggressor and we remain firm in being nonviolent, it is only then that the humans will eventually learn to back down. They will eventually realize their mistake in mistreating us. And if not for us, for our children, for our children's children and for the future. A world where humans and fish folks can cooperate is our ultimate goal. It might not be instant, but we have to start somewhere, we have to start now." After a moment of pure silence, people began to process what she said and a round of applause erupted. The Queen Otahime was truly happy at the support, and this showed the pinnacle of her popularity and overwhelming personality. She smiled and waved into the crowd, though something in particular was not like the other. Multiple emotions were visible in the crowd, except for one particular expression. A gray-skinned great white shark fish man had a serious look about him, seemingly troubled and determined to do something regrettable. Her smile disappeared for a moment as she looked into his eyes, trying to understand him. What did he want? What did he want to do? Then a glimmer of something shiny emerged from his hands. She looked at it in confusion. It was shiny, metallic and hollow. "Mother!" exclaimed someone. "Who is it?" Then a loud sound emitted from the hollow chamber and it quickly made its way to her. She fell flat on her back as blue blood began to flow. "Oh my God!" exclaimed Prince Ryuboshi as the young mermaid who spoke earlier clinged onto him. "No!" exclaimed Prince Manboshi as he fell on both knees. Queen Otahime felt her abdomen where the blue blood continued to flow. Instead of feeling an open wound, she found that somebody's hair laid over her. As the blood did not belong to her, it belonged to her son. "It was a human. I saw it with my own eyes," exclaimed the man who released the bullet from the gun. He thought he got her clean and yet, she was alive. Queen Otahime slowly stood up, gently placing her fallen son on the ground. It was the human. His voice trailed at the sight of the queen on her feet. Her son had reacted quickly enough to take her place on the path of the bullet. "Prince Fukaboshi is dead. Dead due to your hatred." She slowly made her way to him, swimming past a crowd of people. She maintained her resolve as the assailant held out the gun in front of him. "It should have been me, so shoot me. Your theatrics will not work any longer. Everyone is now aware of your lies." She continued to come closer and the fishman had that look in his eyes again. He was going to shoot again. The fishman lifted his gun, aimed it at the queen, but he would not have a chance to shoot, as his hands, which once wielded the pistol, were chopped clean off. It wasn't any of the princes. One is dead, another occupied, while the last had collapsed on the ground in grief. No, it was the father of the fallen prince, King Neptune, whose speed and agility was still prime. He quickly reacted to the event and dashed towards the assailant, using his trident to cut the hands off of the assailant. He then twisted around and used his fin to flick the assailant backwards, only to catch him by the neck and slam him on the ground. His grip was tight and he wanted to kill him so badly. Just a squeeze and his life would be over. But not that day. King Neptune would not take a life in spite of the death of his son. Queen Otahime had gotten to his side at just the right time to place a comforting hand over his shoulder as if to tell the king, "Not today. My eldest has died because of you." King Neptune let go of his neck, finally letting him take a breath. "Banish. You're forever banished in our lands." Suddenly the shooter was surrounded by the members of the Sun Pirates, led by none other than Fisher Tiger himself. He had his arms crossed firmly. Behind him stood Jinbei and Aladiak up for the last time. Fisher Tiger brought Hody Jones to his feet, tossing him toward Jinbei and Aladdin. "Take care of him. But boss, you hated humans. I was doing what you would do. That's the thing, Hody. I hated humans. Not anymore. To this, Aladdin and Jinbei took Hody away, as per King Neptune's orders, banished from Fishman Island. That night, the family mourned the loss of Prince Fukaboshi, the family's eldest boy. Not only the family but the entire nation mourned the death of their prince. Though more reason to push through with coming into the surface. He would want that. Outside of Fishman Island, where the border of their kingdom resides, the only thing that separates Hody from the open sea were Jinbei and Aladdin. Come on guys, let's strike a deal. Hide me out until I can get on my feet. Fuck you, Hody. Prince Fukaboshi was my friend. Tears streamed from the eyes of Aladdin. Go on, Hody, if you don't leave, we'll kill you ourselves. Jinbei threatened, to which Hody immediately swam away from them, using his strength to create some distance. He stopped just several yards from them, where he was confident he would outswim them if they decided to follow him. I'll be back, US. I'll kill all of you human-loving pieces of shit. I swear it. He raised his stump, which had been cut off by King Neptune. I swear. Then several hundred sea kings turned their attention to Hody. They all looked angry, as in their collective mind, Poseidon has spoken, and they will follow her orders. Ah. Hody swam away as fast as he could, disappearing in the distance. Jinbei patted Aladdin in the back, helping him through this trying times, as they made their slow return back to the kingdom. Poseidon was someone in the royal family, whose emotions are in certain turmoil at the death of someone dear to her. She wanted justice for her loss and unconsciously sent out an order for the death of Hody Jones. For Poseidon was the youngest of the royal family. Poseidon was Princess Shirahoshi. Dressrosa Palace, everyone was gone. Kairos was left on his own as he tried to break the sea stone cuffs that bound him. No luck. But hope filled him once more as he found a sword close. He just had to reach for it with all his strength. He reached for the sword. In his mind he would cut his own leg off and go after Doflamingo on his own. But his plans would not be able to come to fruition. Kairos, don't. King Riku had returned to the palace. Shut up, Doflamingo. Your trickery will not work any longer. No tricks, Kairos, my boy. I am your father-in-law. He began to frantically look for the keys to release the gladiator, though he was still not trusting. Father, Princess Viola had gotten away from Monet thanks to the arrival of a certain Straw Hat Queen. Viola. Thank the gods. How are you here? He stopped for a moment to embrace his daughter, though he implored her to look for the keys as well. A woman arrived with Mugiwara, and she freed me from Monet. She said to return to the palace, so I am here. What happened, father? Viola stopped as she saw that King Riku was covered in blood. Doflamingo did something to me where I assaulted my own people with my blade. I finally stopped mid-swing from cutting a child. A child? Tears began to well up from the king as he also stopped looking for the key. Still no luck. You are King Riku. Truly? And Princess Viola? Kairos was still skeptical. This could be a trap. To which Viola nodded. Wait. I have an ability. Viola held her fingers on her eyes to form a goggles. There she looked around the room for the keys. Though no luck. It is not here, father. Is this what you are looking for? From seemingly out of nowhere, a tiny little man approached them. He held a key over his head and handed it to King Riku. Yes, it is. King Riku took the keys, at first mesmerized by the little man. Who are you, kind sir? King Riku. Your family has always been good to us, and yet time has forced us to become nothing but a fairy tale. But alas, time has called for us to resurface once more. I am Chief Goncho here to aid you. The evil man that is Doflamingo should not be allowed a chance for victory. You have many injuries due to his puppetry of you. We can help. Please, do not worry, King. My tribe is going around Dressrosa assisting with the injured as we speak. Thank you, Chief Goncho. Just like the chief claimed, his people were going around helping the injured, though all of them were also made aware that Doflamingo manipulated the king into going berserk. The Tontata tribe members were told to spread the word that King Riku was innocent and Doflamingo was the enemy. Viola was given the key to the shackles and finally freed Kairos from his bindings. Scarlet, she said, to which Kairos immediately nodded and dashed towards his wife and child. King Riku sat down on the ground, finally able to breathe. Mugiwara is out there, father. I saw him with my eyes. He is a good man. Viola sat beside her father and hugged him. King Riku then looked through the window of his palace, seeing destruction and battles occurring all throughout his land. I will have to entrust the fate of my country to this Mugiwara and his group of pirates. Don Quixote Pirates Gladius vs Straw Hat Grand Armada 4th Division Gem. Gladius is my name. What is yours, fellow explosive man? Gladius remained unfazed, as his opponent was a mere rookie, weak, someone with no experience in the new world. The power difference was too immense that words can't truly express the difference. Gem was on all four, coughing up blood as he could not get an ounce of offense. Captain was right. These people were strong. But what the hell, he was exploding, and his body was exploding, but he was losing to a guy who can make items explode at contact. It seems that he was just put in a match which he could not win. The explosion was not the problem, it was the physical attacks that come with his explosiveness. Though his opponent does not know that, this could be his advantage. Gem, my name is Gem of the Straw Hat Grand Armada 4th Division. Nice to meet you, I'll make sure to plaster your blood across your gravestone. Gladius took hold of a boulder which had broken off of a wall in their explosion exchange. He then began to charge it with his abilities, making it a bomb projectile. Die, Gem of the Straw Hats. Eat shit. Gem used the most devastating move in his entire arsenal. And boy, it was a big one. As the rock projectile made its way towards him, Gem put his hands inside his nose, twisting and turning, digging deep for his nuclear weapon. Flashes of his training with Boss Arlong, with the other members of the Grand Armada, and Captain Luffy's guidance went through his mind. If ever you are in doubt, blow shit up. Such wise words from the Grand Armada King. He could never forget this advice, as all he could really do was blow shit up. As soon as he was able to get a decent-sized projectile from his nasal factory, he pulled it out and rolled it. Then he proceeded to aim at the other massive projectile heading his way. He then threw his own projectile, his ultimate back pocket trick, his last resort, and it collided with the rock, which caused a massive explosion that blew Gladius backwards. What the hell was that? Gladius covered his face after the shock of the explosion. He then removed his goggles only to find Gem had covered the distance between them. How? Months of physical training from hell did pay off after all. Boss Arlong would kill me if I lose today, then he would revive me only to kill me again. Gem had a new wind in his body, it was as if he was renewed. It had been months since he built up his reserve, and now that he released the massive bomb from his nasal passages, he felt like a new man. It was his forbidden technique, his hidden gold, his booger bomb. So you got close to me. What now then, Gem? Gladius mocked, as Gem did not have any weapons, no knife or sword, just himself. I am the weapon, bitch. Gem wrapped his arms and legs around Gladius' bod, ready to perform the ultimate technique. Though Gladius thought that he would supercharge his clothes and meet the explosion with more explosion. Ultimate self-explosion, Gem released his ability throughout his whole body. Clothes explosion, Gladius charged his own clothes and matched Gem's exploding ability. Then a massive eruption occurred and then silence. Gem laid flat on his back along with Gladius. Both men were unable to move, or so it seems. Hey, Gladius spoke as best as he could. Although he could charge objects into exploding, he could only take so much impact before his body would fall apart on its own. Yeah? After taking a heavy breath, Gem jumped to his feet and stretched his body, twisting and turning to get deep into his muscle aches. Once the physical damages were taken out of the equation and the battle became about explosion, he was good with that. Nothing. Gladius then nearly passed out, after the embarrassing loss to a green rookie from fucking paradise. How embarrassing. Gem kicked Gladius a couple times just to make sure he was down. With no response from his exploding opponent, Gem raised both hands in the air. Yahoo! Proclaiming his victory. Gem had defeated a member of the Don Quixote family. Though he took a beating, and despite all of his training, his body still needed to get used to close combat battles. As soon as he exclaimed in glee, he fell flat on his face, falling asleep in the middle of the battle. Exhaustion finally kicked in, as he had been fighting for some time. The wind suddenly picked up as two new figures arrived at the scene. A taller man and a boy with thick eye bags approached the sleeping body of Gem. Neither man uttered a word, but the taller man picked up Gem like a sack of potato and threw him over his shoulder. They then left the area, leaving Gladius for whoever would collect him later, moving on to wherever they were going. Don Quixote Pirate Buffalo vs Straw Hat Grand Armada 5th Division Bentham. Head kick. Then a head kick followed, though Buffalo was quick on the response. Elbow drop. Still no connection. Consecutive jabs. Still nothing. Bentham had been using his Okama Kempo to fight Buffalo, the rotating member of the Don Quixote Pirates. His smile was annoying as he had tattooed. Though he was massive in stature, he uses his fruit ability well and is able to dodge Bentham's strikes with ease. Weak, claimed Buffalo as he was flying in the air. He used his devil fruit ability for that as well. Silence you, I have yet to show you my true abilities. Bentham pulled his left leg back with his right leg forward. He then positioned his hands into the crane posture. I didn't think I would stay with this crew for so long, but I like them, they are now my friends. The rock below him began to tremble as he was emitting his own willpower outwards, powering up for his true strike. Your friends are all weak. You will all die today by our hands. Buffalo began to rotate more rapidly, preparing to challenge whatever Bentham was generating. Try me. Bentham then smirked and disappeared in a blur. It was a technique he learned from Sir Lucci. Then he used his speed to get his fist to collide with the face of Buffalo. The impact was so great that those who heard the crack grimace as they could feel the pain. The fist, which had been hardened with repetition in punching wooden posts, came from Sir Arlong's teaching. As Buffalo fell backwards, Bentham had thought of the perfect finisher. He changed his position mid-air and spun forward, finally meeting the body of Buffalo with the heel of his right foot. He then used the impact to launch Buffalo straight to the ground, a crater made in his wake. That kicking technique was thanks to Queen Hancock. He used the year in training with the crew to polish his Okama Kempo as well as implementing his own flair in other people's teaching. He landed gracefully on both feet as Buffalo was not moving anytime soon. That's what you get for mocking the power of friendship. Tears began to flow from his eyes, happy tears, from earning a victory against a New World pirate. Don Quixote Pirate Macvise vs Straw Hat Grand Armada 3rd Division Galdino. Help PPP, Galdino was running really fast. Months of training under the commanders have really done wonders with his physical fitness. But his worst enemy finally manifested itself once more. A rock which stuck out from the ground got in his way and he tripped on it. He was running so fast that as soon as he hit the rock, his momentum brought him tumbling forward. He was only able to stop when he hit his face right at a wall. You are an idiot. Macvise had been jogging to follow Galdino. The wax user was indeed an idiot, but he was a strong idiot. I may be an idiot, but I'm not the one to fall for my trap. Galdino adjusted his glasses as indeed Macvise was surrounded by a wax tsunami. There was no escape. The wax tsunami had been created by Galdino as he ran. His seemingly pointless running around the place turned out to be a technique. The wax tsunami came crashing down on top of the muscular power man. Let me tell you something about the New World boy. Macvise's head began to turn pink, for despite his body being swallowed by wax, he was the ton man. What did that mean? 1 ton headbutt. He slammed his head onto the wax, shattering the substance and ultimately freeing his body. Oh come on! Exclaimed Galdino as he used one of his key tactics to trap the massive man in his wax. But now, he had no choice, it would need to be a fight. Wax armor, his hands were covered in massive white wax boxing gloves. His feet were covered by stilt-like wax shoes that matched his height with Macvise. This was a technique suggested to him by Captain Luffy. He said this form would give him a fighting chance against a strong opponent. What he would need to do is keep pumping his wax ability to his armor, and he has a solid encasing. 1 ton punch. Macvise launched a punch forward to which Galdino met him with his own wax boxing gloves. The impact caused by the powerful 1 ton punch caused his boxing gloves to collapse on its own. A punch like that would destroy him. Galdino was no longer the weak paradise agent of the Baroque works. He was now a Straw Hat Grand Armada pirate. The punch of Macvise caused his gloves to collapse, but instead of panicking, Galdino swallowed the fist of Macvise and encased it with quick-drying wax. With Macvise caught by the hand, Galdino did not give him time to react as he kicked him with his stilt right leg. Then he pulled him back in and punched him with his free wax boxing glove hands. The onslaught continued with another kick, then a punch, then kick, punch, kick, Punch. He kept going until Macvise was no longer conscious. He finally let his hands go and let him plop to the floor. Today was Galdino's victory. Thank you Captain Luffy and the Grand Armada's held training. He jumped up and down celebrating his victory. 3 down, 7 more to go. And if we're being real here, those Galdino, Jem and Bentham were the weakest of the crew, and that was saying something.